Grace, you need to understand what you've done. How could you leave your duties as a wife and cause problems for William? You're a terrible wife. I'll teach you a lesson. Well, Mother, I had my reasons for leaving. It doesn't matter, we're moving to a nice, new apartment. If you want to come live with us, I'll tell you where it is. I'm sure my mother-in-law has no idea what's really going on. Well, that works in my favor. No, I don't want to live with you. My name is Grace, I'm 35 years old, and I work in an office. My husband, William, and I have been married for 5 years. He's 40, 5 years older than me. I used to date older guys, but I was drawn to William because he was kind and generous. Our relationship was good, so we got married. Things were fine at first, but soon, things started to go wrong. I lost my job. Then, William got fired too. The reason? The company he worked for wasn't doing well because of the recession. I never imagined that he'd get fired because he worked for a big company. I thought we'd always have money, but nothing is ever guaranteed. Suddenly, we didn't have enough money. I was a stay-at-home wife, but I decided to go back to work. I called my old company, and they agreed to hire me. A worker had just left to have a baby, so they needed someone. I was relieved that we would have some income again. I hoped William could find another job, but it wasn't easy for a man his age to get hired, so he ended up working part-time as a day laborer. His salary was about $700 a month. My pay wasn't much better. We were struggling. Hey, the rent is too high. Can we move to a cheaper place? I asked. If we want to save money, we need to cut our living costs. Before, when William made good money, we never worried about money. We lived in a nice apartment, but now I thought we should face reality and move somewhere cheaper. But he refused. No, we're not moving. Why not? If we move to a smaller, cheaper apartment, my mom will ask me why. So what? Just tell her the truth, we're struggling because you don't have a job now. When I said that, William got really angry. Don't ever tell my mother I'm unemployed. We can pay the rent with your salary and my part-time job. Just leave it at that. I was shocked. You care more about your pride and your house than about our marriage. Even though we could technically pay the rent, we were still having a hard time with everything else. That's why I suggested moving to a cheaper place, but William wouldn't listen. I had to drop it for now. Life kept being hard, especially after one day when William said something I couldn't believe. Is this all we're having for dinner? You used to make so many dishes. Just because you started working doesn't mean you can ignore your duties. Don't be lazy with managing the house, he complained. His words made me really angry, so I fired back. We don't have a choice, we're struggling. I'm doing my best at both work and home. If someone wasn't so proud and wanted to keep living here, we could save more money, or maybe you could make more money, and everything could be like before. That made William snap. What the hell, don't talk to me like that. I'll get another job at a good company and make more money than you, he shouted. He was angry, but I thought to myself, if this makes him want to work harder, maybe I can handle it. But he couldn't find a new job. In the first place, he had to work part-time as a day laborer. Even when he seemed motivated, he couldn't get hired anywhere. I would have understood if he had some extra qualifications or training, but he didn't. He just worked part-time. He got rejected at every interview and hated having to answer to younger people. Eventually, he gave up looking for a job, but he still believed he could make more money than me. I was disappointed and had lost hope, but it wasn't just William the first was worried about. Earlier that day, I got another phone call. It was my mother-in-law. She had called me repeatedly, even though I was at work. When I checked my phone during lunch, I saw there were more than 10 missed calls. When I called her back, her voice was sharp and high-pitched from the moment she answered. "Why didn't you answer the phone right away?" she demanded. "I told you before that I'm at work," I replied. "Come on, you call that work? My call should be your top priority." My mother-in-law lost her husband a year ago, so I knew she must be feeling really lonely and was calling me a lot more since then. I should support my mother-in-law, but all she says is that it's a wife's duty to support her husband, and now that I've started working, she's furious and keeps calling me at work. "Did you talk to William about this?" she asked. "You can't even answer my phone calls," she complained. "I'm sorry. It's hard for us to live with you now. I'm not asking for your opinion. William won't object to it." "No, William thinks it's too difficult. Plus, we're having financial problems." "How can there be financial problems? William works for a big company and makes good money. You two are rich, right? I don't know how to respond when she says things like that. William told me not to tell her the truth, so I can't. She calls me selfish for going to work, and she thinks I'm lying about our struggles. Her calls are so annoying, not just when I'm at work, but also at night when I'm home. She thinks a wife's first priority is supporting her husband and taking care of his mother too. You haven't come to see me lately, what's going on? She asked. I'm working full-time, and I'm exhausted. William works part-time on weekends, so we don't have the same days off. I'm sorry, we're both busy, but it's hard to fit visits into our schedules. Your schedule? William's off on weekends. You can come then, right? I could tell she's been upset for a while, and it was getting to me. I thought it was time to tell her the truth about William. No, William works on weekends, I tried to say. But just then, William, who was lying on the couch watching TV, grabbed my phone. Mom, I'm sorry I haven't been able to visit you. I'm working on a big project and even working weekends. I'll visit when I get a break, he said before hanging up and walking back to me. What were you doing? Were you about to tell my mom the truth? He demanded. Just tell her the truth. If you don't, she'll keep saying all these things because she doesn't know anything, I argued. I'm sorry, but don't tell my mom, he snapped. That's enough, keep your pride and tell her the truth, I said, getting frustrated. Shut up, I'm the one who keeps us going. Thank me instead of talking back to me, he shouted, then went back to his room. I feel like I'm about to break. I can't fix our financial problems. William and his mother are both pushing me to the edge. It's too much. William says his job is too hard, but he doesn't do housework. His job isn't full-time, he works weekends and 1 day a week. He could do something to help increase our income or at least help out around the house. Why do you do nothing at home and expect me to do everything? William asked. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to leave for a while. I went to stay at my parents' house for a week to show William how hard housework really is. I told my parents what was going on, and they suggested I should divorce William right away, but we were in love, and we'd been married for 5 years. I didn't want to end things so easily. If I was going to divorce him, I wanted to make sure I tried everything first. If that didn't work, then I'd consider divorce. While I was at my parents' house, William called me. When are you coming home? Where's my mail? He asked. I won't be back for a while. You'll have to do all the housework while I'm gone, I replied. That's ridiculous. Just come home and do the chores, he insisted. No, I won't. You know how hard housework is. You can clean, do the laundry, cook, do everything yourself. You need to understand how tough it is to manage the house while I'm working. I decided I didn't care anymore, so I ignored his calls. Staying at my parents' house was a relief. For the first time in a long time, I could share the housework with my dad and mom. My mom would say, "You must be tired," and prepare lots of home-cooked meals. I appreciated not having to do anything while the food was ready for me. I stayed for about a week, but it was hard to stay longer because my parents' house is far from my office, about an hour and a half each way. So, I decided it was time to go back to our house. I was worried it might be a mess, but when I got there, I found it cleaner than expected. However, something felt off. I went to William's room and noticed his clothes and suitcase were gone. I figured he must have gone to his mom's place, so I called him. Why are you calling me now? He answered. Where are you? I asked. I'm at my parents' house, he said. You didn't go there right after I left, did you? Yeah, I did. What's the big deal? You shouldn't have left in the first place. I'm already upset, and I'm not going back to that house. What do you mean? I asked, confused. I'm going to live with my mom. We're moving to a new apartment. I didn't understand what he meant, and before I could respond, his mom picked up the phone. Grace, do you have any idea what you've done? You've abandoned your duty as a wife and caused trouble for William. You're a terrible wife, and I'm going to teach you a lesson. Well, Mother, I have my reasons for leaving. It doesn't matter. We're moving into a new, nice apartment. If you want to come live with us, I'll tell you where it is. I knew my mother-in-law didn't know what was really going on. That worked in my favor, so I said, no thank you. What? She asked, shocked. I'm not going, I repeated. Are you serious? If William's going to live with me, you'll have to be on your own. Can you live alone? You've always relied on him, I replied. Don't worry, I've heard enough to live on my own, she said. If we're not living together, then there's no reason to stay married. I'm divorcing him, I said firmly. What? Her voice was filled with surprise and shock. Grace, there's no need to talk about divorce, she protested. I can't stay married to him anymore. I need to get rid of a husband like that as soon as possible, I said. My mother-in-law snapped. How dare you talk to William like that? We don't want a life like yours either. Fine, William, get a divorce, she said angrily. No, William replied. I'll prepare the divorce papers. You'll regret this, and it's too late for an apology, my mother-in-law added. Same to you, I said, and hung up. When I hung up the phone, I knew that my ex-mother-in-law and William would likely be here soon with the divorce papers. I was actually relieved. Things were finally going the way I wanted. William hadn't changed at all and had gone back to his mother's place. That made it easier for me to stick to my decision. If he wasn't willing to change, there was no reason for us to stay together. I packed my bags and waited. A few hours later, my mother-in-law arrived, along with the divorce papers. Oh, William isn't here, she remarked. He doesn't need to be, I replied, feeling a sense of finality. Here we go. I had him fill out his section. Now, you just need to fill out yours. She handed me the divorce papers. As I looked at the papers, I noticed William's section was filled with shaky handwriting. My William is such a wonderful man, she said, her voice dripping with bitterness. Even though he's married to a horrible wife like you, he's still reluctant to get a divorce. I'll never forgive you for causing trouble for such a great person. I hope you live a poor life and regret it, she continued, her words sharp and venomous. While I filled out my part of the form, my mother-in-law didn't stop ranting at me. It was clear that William's pride had gotten in the way. He couldn't even be honest with his own mother. What a pathetic man he was. She kept on. What happened to your house? I saw it. Well, if you want to come over, there's no place for you now, I shot back. No, I won't, she responded quickly. How much did you sell it for? She asked, almost casually. It was an old house, so it wasn't much, I replied. That's none of your business, but I'll tell you, since I'm being generous, I sold it for $50,000, not much, but enough for retirement. William will pay for our new apartment, she said, trying to sound smug. Wow, I'm surprised you got approved for that, I commented. What are you talking about? William is a high-class person. It's a given, she said dismissively. So, you put the money in William's account? I asked. How did you know that? That's not important. Stop asking about it. And you're just a divorced woman now, she snapped. So, obviously, you're still into him, but it's too late, I said, trying to get under her skin. Don't worry, I've already agreed to the divorce, I said. How are the divorce papers coming along? At that, she snapped, her anger boiling over. She left, leaving me overjoyed to be rid of her and William for good. I moved the rest of my things to my parents' house. At my parents' place, I found everything I needed to start fresh. I picked out things for a single person's apartment. Feeling free for the first time in a long while, I had finally gotten rid of the poverty I had been stuck in. I'm not going to give you William's property, get used to it, I said, recalling William's pale face when we discussed the division of property. I couldn't help but laugh at the memory. Then, about 2 years later, I got a call from an unknown number. I wasn't sure who it could be, but I thought it might be work-related, so I picked up. To my surprise, it was my ex-mother-in-law. Oh my God, Grace, please help me, she cried. Mother, you can't keep calling me that. We're strangers now, I replied coldly. Don't say that. I'm in trouble, she begged. Huh? You can't pay your rent, and your savings are running low? I asked, already knowing what she was going to say. He didn't tell you about the financial problem, did he? You two got broke, and he never said anything. Oh, you knew? I replied, trying to keep my composure. I knew he didn't want to tell you, but every time I tried to talk to you, William told me not to, she explained, sounding defeated. I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Grace, I didn't understand. Please, I need your help, she pleaded. I don't want to help you, I said firmly. He wouldn't change, no matter how much I tried, and you were always bullying me. I don't want to spend time with people like you ever again. Please, don't say that. I don't have anything to eat. I'm really dying, she sobbed. According to my ex-mother-in-law, William had been trying to keep up appearances. He had been hiding their financial troubles. using the money from the sale of the family home to pay rent and pretending everything was fine. His mother would get suspicious if he didn't show some extravagance every now and then. He spent a lot of money on expensive groceries and fancy meals. Because of that, he quickly used up the $50,000. Now, he's broke. Well, he got what he deserved, didn't he? I told him, why don't you put your pride aside and live in a cheap apartment? But my ex-mother-in-law cried and said, this wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to live comfortably with my successful son. I quietly ended the call and blocked her number. I even put a restraining order on her, just in case I needed to call the police. All they do is rely on others, whether it's parents or children. They're the same. I learned a lot from them. I'm focusing on living independently. I'm going to focus on my own life and leave behind the truth about a husband who refuses to live within his means, and a mother-in-law who only blames her daughter-in-law without ever questioning her son. I'm so glad Grace could cut ties with such a terrible mother and son. Now, she can live her own life. I hope she meets a wonderful man in the future. I wish her a happy life from now on. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. See you in the next video.
So there's this moment where Jessica suddenly realizes something about her sister. She thinks her sister is kind of sad and unlucky, and then she gets this idea. What's the idea? Well, just wait and see. Jessica, wearing a fancy wedding dress, starts talking to everyone around. She even grabs a microphone. Then she says loudly to all the guests, does anyone want to marry my sister? She's not super smart, and she's getting older, you know? After saying this, Jessica's sister gives her a sneaky smile. But she doesn't realize how rude Jessica's words are. The room suddenly feels weird, and people start whispering. Some of them look at Jessica with disapproval. But Jessica doesn't notice any of this. She grabs the microphone again and tells her sister, come on, you have to make yourself sound better. There are lots of good-looking doctors here. Don't you get what you've done wrong? Suddenly, something big happened. A woman named Emily Nichols, who's 29 years old and works a regular job, spoke up. She's not particularly striking in looks, just ordinary. But she has one interesting thing about her. She became a lawyer after finishing middle school. Emily has a sister named Jessica, who's 2 years younger. Jessica is pretty and outgoing, so their family always favored her. Emily, unlike Jessica, isn't noticed much. She's just average in looks and style. Plus, she's not very charming, so she didn't get much love from her family or relatives. At home, she felt ignored and often got treated coldly. She couldn't compete with Jessica's natural charm, which got all the attention from their parents. Instead of love, Emily got harsh treatment. I tried really hard in school, hoping my family would notice me even just a little bit. But no matter how well I did, I could never beat my sister. Eventually, I got tired of trying so hard to be loved by my family. I decided to focus on something else instead of seeking their affection. I threw myself into studying, telling myself I'd find my own value. Studying hard made me feel more sure of myself, and I started to see good results. I hoped that one day my parents would praise me for my academic achievements, so I kept studying late into the night during middle school. I always got the highest grades in my class and did better than everyone else in tests, but my parents never praised me. Instead, they seemed disappointed if I didn't get almost perfect scores in every subject. They'd say things like, being at the top isn't enough. You need to be perfect in everything. Even if I got a 95% in a tough test, they'd still say it wasn't good enough. My mom's voice was like ice, sharp and cold. She always had something to say about my grades, making excuses feel useless. Are you trying to show off these less than perfect grades? She'd say, making me feel small. All I could do was mumble an apology. Yes, I'm sorry, I'd say quietly. No matter how hard I tried, my grades never seemed good enough for my parents. They never appreciated my efforts. If I didn't get a perfect score, they'd scold me. But what hurt more than their coldness was when my sister Jessica said seemingly innocent things. Oh, are you getting in trouble again? She'd say, barging into my room and smirking at my report card. Getting scolded even with good grades? That's sad. I get praise even for barely passing. Then she'd pretend to be concerned, saying, I thought you were feeling down. But I guess I was wrong. If you were really worried, you wouldn't talk to me like that. That was my report card, I said. See, that's your problem. You're always so standoffish. That's why Mom and Dad don't show you love. It's because of that, Jessica replied, her eyes cold and full of contempt. Even as she walked away, I could still feel her disdain. After she left, I heard her cheerful laughter with our parents from the living room. I should have been used to this by now, but I couldn't stop the sadness that welled up inside me. Tears streamed down my face. In my hand was my report card, now crumpled from my tight grip. I made a new resolve to stand on my own and escape this suffocating family environment. I decided that excelling in my studies and improving my abilities was the key to my freedom. From that moment on, I promised myself I would make it happen. I threw myself into my studies with even more determination than before. One day, as the autumn breeze blew through the classroom windows, my father made an unexpected announcement. "Emily, you will not go to high school. You need to start looking for a job immediately," he said coldly. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. "Why would you say that?" I asked, trying to hide my confusion. My father replied, "It's not worth investing more in you. If you want to go to high school, you'll have to pay for it yourself. If you can't do that, you'll have to give up." "But I'm still in middle school. I can't get a job that pays enough. How am I supposed to?" I tried to argue, but he wouldn't listen. "Then you'll just have to accept it. Your mother and I have decided to focus our finances on Jessica. We can't afford to spend more on you," he said firmly. "That's not fair." I screamed internally, but my father's decision was final. His harsh words seemed to drain all the color from my world, turning everything gray. My mother and sister watched me with unhidden smiles, clearly pleased. Now, I understand there were options to cover high school expenses, like finding schools with tuition waivers or scholarships. But back then, I didn't know about these options, and I felt devastated by the end of my educational path. From that day, my passion for learning faded quickly. The praise from my homeroom teacher, who admired my grades, felt empty. With no support for my education at home, my hopes of continuing my studies seemed impossible. After middle school, I started working at a local factory. I wasn't old enough to live on my own, so I worked hard until I turned 18. Most of my salary went to the household, and I saved the small amount I kept for myself. Those days were tough, like crawling through an endless tunnel. On my 18th birthday, I finally left that house. I left a single letter for my family and, with a firm decision in my heart, walked away from the home that was now just a memory. After I left, it was as if I never existed to my family. They didn't call or write. At first, living away from them was painful, and I felt very lonely. But over time, work kept me busy, and the loneliness faded. Living independently, the stress from home disappeared, and I felt a new sense of mental freedom. This peace of mind reignited my enthusiasm. I regained my love for learning and decided to start studying again. I began with the basics, reviewing diligently. The joy of learning filled my heart once more, and soon I was studying with ease. I moved on to high school textbooks and started reading extensively. During my reading journey, I became fascinated by books on law, which sparked a deep interest in the legal profession. Although I had only finished junior high, the idea of becoming a lawyer seemed far-fetched. But then I learned about the preliminary examination system, which opened up new possibilities for me. This system offered a chance for someone with my educational background to take the bar exam. Armed with this new information, I intensified my dedication to studying. I used every possible moment at home and during breaks at work to memorize legal terms. During lunch, I would eat while studying for the bar exam. My workplace was full of older colleagues, most around my parents' age. They noticed my efforts and came together to support me. At the age of 23, I passed the bar exam. After that, I left my long-term job at the factory and got a position at a top law firm. After about 4 years of training there, I opened my own law practice. Now, I am a legal consultant for a hospital and I feel content. Yet sometimes, I wonder how my parents would react if they knew I became a lawyer. I think about whether I would finally meet their expectations. Despite this, I have not shared anything with them. In my heart, I believe I will continue not to reach out to them. However, an unexpected reunion with my family came sooner than I anticipated. One evening after work, I came home to find a message on my phone from my younger sister Jessica saying she was getting married. "Jessica is getting married," I murmured to myself. My sister, now 27, was engaged to a doctor. The notification said her wedding was next month, and they wanted me to attend. Despite the long period of estrangement from Jessica and my parents, I hesitated to meet them. But as a family member, I couldn't ignore the significant event. So I replied that I would attend. My sister quickly responded with the exact date and location of the ceremony. Her message ended with, "Don't forget the wedding gift," which made me smile wryly. It seemed Jessica was more interested in the gift than in wholeheartedly welcoming me. I decided to use the wedding as an opportunity to reunite with the family and then part ways again. On the day of Jessica's wedding, I, Donna, carefully chose a blue dress and headed to the venue. After completing the entrance formalities, I took my seat in a family area where my father and mother were already seated. "You have some nerve showing up here. You must be doing well for yourself with the meager earnings from the factory," my father said coldly. "Indeed, you're right. Introducing someone like her as family does not do us any credit as parents," my mother added disdainfully. "Jessica shouldn't have invited someone like you," my father continued. I told them exactly that, but they insisted on receiving the celebration money regardless, my mother said quietly, right in front of me. They continued their conversation without hesitation, ignoring my presence. This was my reality. I had a faint hope that sharing my side of the story might bridge the gap between my family and me, but it was quickly shattered. Both my father and mother avoided talking to me completely. In the silence, I glanced around the venue and noticed some familiar faces on the groom's side. Haven't I seen that person somewhere before? I wondered, feeling a sense of déjà vu. As I tried to remember, I looked up the groom's name, and my suspicion turned into certainty. The connection I had anticipated became clear, and I couldn't entirely hide my surprise. It felt like a twist of fate. However, I decided to keep my emotions in check and quietly participate in the ceremony. As the program proceeded, the bride and groom made a glamorous entrance, followed by his team. Guests offered warm words and entertaining performances, softening the atmosphere. Time passed, and the banquet gradually shifted to dinner and then to photo-taking sessions. Throughout this time, my parents got up without acknowledging my presence and moved towards the front where the bride and groom awaited. Jessica, like a magnet, clung close to them, smiling happily in each photograph taken. I pretended not to feel anything and focused silently on the meal in front of me. But unexpectedly, my sister Jessica approached me. She came closer with a smile, but her eyes had a spark of something more than excitement to see her sister after so many years. It seemed like she had an ulterior motive. "Big sis, it's been such a long time, hasn't it? Are you happy to spend time together like this?" she asked lightly. I nodded quietly, expressing my genuine thoughts. "Yes, the banquet food is really wonderful," I replied with a sarcastic smile. Jessica continued, "You can't get such luxurious food at the factory you work at, can you? You should be grateful for this opportunity." Something inside me felt like it was being torn apart, but I didn't show it on my face. Jessica's words grew sharper, cutting into me with a taunting edge. "Oh dear, did I upset you? I'm sorry, but it's natural for you to be envious, isn't it? Your little sister marrying a doctor and all." The phrase "I'm sorry" slipped from her mouth flippantly, as if it were a meaningless ornament. I kept my expression unchanged and quietly waited for her next move. Then Jessica whispered in my ear, "Big sis, because I feel sorry for you, I've come up with a great idea." Despite maintaining my composure, I asked with suspicion, "A great idea? What is it?" Jessica replied with satisfaction, "You'll see, just watch closely." Adorned in her elegant wedding dress, she gathered the attention of everyone around as she received a microphone from the staff. Suddenly, she announced loudly to the guests, "Ladies and gentlemen, you may not be aware, but my sister is here. She may not have the highest education or be the youngest, but if there is anyone kind-hearted enough, could you please take her under your wing?" My face turned red in an instant. "What are you saying, Jessica?" I exclaimed, unable to hide my shock and embarrassment. Jessica continued even louder. "Although she doesn't earn much and leads a modest life, is there someone here who can brighten my sister's future?" As everyone's attention focused on me, Jessica seemed to be relishing my confusion, sporting a smug smile. Then, something unbelievable happened. Jessica's disrespectful behavior escalated, and shockingly, even our usually gentle parents joined in. "Please treat her kindly." Their careless comment was the last straw for me. Rage surged inside me. How far will they go to satisfy their desire to ridicule someone? Especially at a moment of happiness? I couldn't believe it, but it was time for them to face reality. As the atmosphere in the venue shifted and murmurs grew, "Jessica, unaware she was once again the center of attention, cheerfully took the microphone, calling out, "Emily, look, there are so many doctors gathered here. It's your chance." I remained silent, but my solemn gaze conveyed a strong will. "This is the end for you," I thought. Jessica, confused, could only respond with, "Heh." I approached her calmly, saying, "You'll understand soon just how terrible your actions have been." As Jessica tried to make an excuse, the groom suddenly raised his voice to address the venue. "Wait, please. Why are you leaving your seats?" His voice captivated everyone. Looking towards him, it was clear that all his colleagues from work were standing up, heading for the exit. Even as the groom tried to stop them, a dignified man who seemed to be the hospital director spoke to him firmly. "The recent remarks of the bride were so unpleasant that I'm in disbelief. I apologize, but we can no longer stay here. We will take our leave now." The groom rushed to stop the hospital director, offering to take responsibility for Jessica's words and actions. "Please wait. I admit her words were inappropriate. I'll speak to her directly and ensure she undergoes a serious change in awareness." However, the hospital director explained the seriousness of the situation and revealed information about me that the groom was unaware of. "The problem isn't just that. Do you know what kind of person her sister is?" The groom, confused, admitted he knew nothing about me. "Eh? No, I only met her sister for the first time today, and all I've heard was that she worked in a factory after graduating from middle school." The hospital director couldn't hide his irritation at the groom's ignorance. "Don't be ridiculous. Her sister is a respected lawyer and also serves as the legal advisor to our hospital." The groom was shocked to learn this, indicating he had no idea I was the hospital's legal advisor. "The lawyer is our hospital's advisor." Not only the groom but also my sister, parents, and other guests were left speechless. I was contracted as the legal advisor to that hospital, which was where my sister's future husband worked. The reason the groom looked familiar was because I had seen him several times at hospital events. Other guests likely realized this too when they saw me. My sister's inappropriate comments only made things worse, prompting the hospital director to openly express his outrage. Although the groom himself is a member of the hospital's medical staff and has no direct relation to me, to the hospital director and other staff, the legal advisor is of significant importance. The groom's face turned even redder, and he stepped toward his sister, raising his voice in reproach. "What on earth is this? Because of your carelessness, my reputation is now tarnished." The groom reproached Jessica, his tone filled with indignation. Jessica stumbled over her words for a moment, then defended herself like a bewildered child. "It's not like that. I truly had no idea that my sister was in such a prestigious position." Growing more indignant, the groom continued to chastise Jessica for her ignorance. "Ignorance is no excuse. And how can you speak so lightly and disrespectfully of your own sister? As a human being, your behavior is at the very bottom. You've truly lost sight of what's valuable." Desperately trying to elicit some understanding, Jessica pleaded, "Wait a minute, listen. I have a good reason." However, the groom, unwilling to hear her explanation, declared decisively, "The withdrawal from the marriage itself. I have no interest in hearing your excuses. Our marriage discussion ends here." Shocked by his words, Jessica collapsed on the spot as if her soul had left her, her complexion turning deathly pale. Then, in a fit of anger, the groom and the guests disappeared from the wedding hall. As I was about to leave, I heard a desperate cry from my sister behind me. "Please help me, Emily." But I didn't let her cries sway me. Confronting her with a stern tone, I said, "Help you, you say? Why should I do such a thing for you? The situation you're in now is the result of your own actions. Trying to get a laugh with a joke that mocks others and then playing the victim when it fails is pathetic. I can't accept it." Jessica, confused and anxious, pleaded, "Why are you being so harsh? If you had known about my success as a lawyer," I replied calmly but firmly, "why didn't you bother to contact me? In fact, I was planning to end our relationship after this wedding, but seeing your unfortunate end, I'm somewhat satisfied. You must be disappointed that your engagement to a doctor has been called off. Well, you better work hard to find your next prospect." With those words, I left the venue with dignity. From afar, I could hear the critical voices of my sister and parents. Everything went as expected, and my sister's marriage was no more. The parents, who had believed a secure future was guaranteed through my sister marrying a doctor, expressed their anger towards her for the first time. Amidst the chaos, my sister, always pampered, couldn't bear their anger and sought solace with a broken heart. But I turned a blind eye to her pleas, devoid of sympathy. I never answered her calls, despite her repeated attempts, and I cut off all contact with the family. I heard that my sister had quit her job, now unemployed, estranged from our parents, and spending her days isolated at home. As for me, I am enjoying a very satisfying life both professionally and personally, leading a peaceful existence without major problems. Although my relationship with my family has been rocky, I am grateful for the strong support I receive from colleagues and friends. This contented life isn't just luck, it's the result of years of self-improvement and hard work. There were challenging days, but overcoming each obstacle has brought me to where I am today. Reflecting on my past struggles and their impact on my growth, I aspire to continue living a fulfilling life at my own pace, setting achievable goals while minimizing stress.
My name is Alina. I'm 23 years old and in my last year of college, aiming to become a journalist. But today, instead of looking forward to graduation, I'm stuck in a terrible situation. We just buried my dad less than a day ago. My dad, Martin, was always traveling for work, but he still made me feel loved. Now, the house feels so empty without him. It's a constant reminder of the gap he left behind. As I stand in the entrance of our home, still feeling numb from the funeral, my mom, Claudia, and my sister, Victoria, quickly share their plans. Their words hit me hard, like a loud, sad bell marking the end of our family's togetherness. We're going to sell this house, Claudia says, her eyes cold despite her pretending to be sad. Start looking for a new place, Elena. You need to move out soon. I can hardly believe what I'm hearing. Before I can even process my dad's death, my mom and sister are already thinking about money and what they can gain from it. It feels like a huge betrayal. You don't think you're entitled to anything, do you? Victoria taunts, with her boyfriend, Jan, laughing beside her. Their cruel amusement makes me furious. I shouldn't be hearing these words, especially now when the pain is so fresh. I never understood their greed and obsession with wealth and appearances. I was always the odd one out in the family, too serious and studious. Elena the dreamer, they used to mock. And now, faced with their scheming, all the years of indifference and mockery boil over. You're the worst, I shout, unable to hold back my anger. I'm done with this. I'm done with all of you. The bell rings, cutting through my outburst. Annoyed at the interruption, I wipe away my angry tears and open the door. A man in a dark suit stands there, holding a briefcase, and his face looks vaguely familiar. My condolences, he says solemnly. May I come in? Who is this stranger, showing up at the worst possible time with such a serious tone? I'm not ready to deal with anyone else right now, but something in his eyes tells me this isn't just a courtesy visit. I step aside and let him in, wondering what this means for our already fragile family. The echo of my father's laughter used to fill our home, softening the sting of my mother and sister's harsh words. Now, the walls seem to close in on me, mixing memories of their hurtful comments with the emptiness his death has left. I always found comfort in my studies, hoping they would lead me to a meaningful life, away from the shallow desires that drove Claudia and Victoria. But as I sit at the dining table, it's hard to focus on anything but the void Martin's passing has created. Silent meals have become the new normal since Dad got sick and passed away. Victoria is always on her phone, and Claudia flips through high-fashion magazines, completely detached from our reality. Their latest plan to sell our home and leave me behind was the final blow to our family bonds. They seemed so eager to chase their dreams of luxury condos and designer lives that nothing else mattered. Dad had been our anchor, and I'd hoped for at least a semblance of unity after he was gone. But now, seeing their blatant opportunism, the illusion of family was shattered, and something inside me snapped. I was tired of being the outsider, the one who cared. I was ready to walk away from it all. Lost in these thoughts, the doorbell rings, a sound that now only means more disruption and bad news. At the door stands a man from my father's past, someone whose ties to our family had faded over time. Good evening, he greets me. I need to speak with you about your father's affairs. His formal tone feels out of place in our messy living room, a stark reminder of our family's discord. I nod and gesture for him to sit down. Claudia and Victoria peek out from the kitchen, their curious faces showing irritation. The man pulls out a stack of papers from his briefcase, his expression serious. I'm Mr. Adams, your father's attorney. He entrusted me with his will and some final instructions, he explains, adjusting his glasses with a seriousness that hints at significant news. Claudia leans forward, visibly intrigued, while Victoria tries to appear nonchalant but stays close by. As Mr. Adams prepares to speak, I steel myself for what's coming next, unsure of the impact it will have but certain our family dynamics are on the brink of change once again. The room fills with tension as Mr. Adams clears his throat and unfolds the document containing my father Martin's final wishes. Claudia and Victoria lean forward eagerly, their attempts at composure slipping since his passing. In accordance with your father's wishes, Mr. Adams begins, I am here to read the will and begin the process of carrying out his instructions. His gaze moves between each of us, perhaps assessing our readiness for what he's about to reveal. I can't shake a sense of dread. Years of living under my mother and sister's expectations had conditioned me to expect little and prepare for disappointment. Yet as the attorney starts to speak, it becomes clear that our expectations are about to be upended. To my daughter Elena, I leave the entirety of my estate, including the family home and all accumulated savings and investments. The room falls into a hushed silence, broken only by the soft shuffle of papers and the steady tick-tock of the grandfather clock. Mr. Adams continues reading, but his words barely register with me. All I can hear is the pounding of my heart and a buzzing in my ears. It can't be right. There must be some mistake. Me? I manage to stammer, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. But why? Victoria pushes her chair back abruptly, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and anger. Claudia, equally stunned, sits frozen, her mouth opening and closing silently. Jen, who had been quietly lingering in the background, steps forward as if to comfort or perhaps restrain Victoria. This has to be some kind of joke, right? Jen demands, but Mr. Adams only solemnly shakes his head. There's no mistake, he assures us. Martin was very clear in his wishes. He believed that Elena, with her principles and dedication, would best honor his legacy and manage his assets responsibly. Claudia finds her voice, her disbelief turning to anger. But what about us? She demands sharply, her voice shaking with fury. Are we supposed to get nothing while she gets everything? The question lingers in the air, thick with resentment from my mother and sister. I'm speechless, caught between the weight of this unexpected responsibility and the hurt of their obvious greed. Mr. Adams looks at me. Martin had his reasons, which he believed would become clear in time. Right now, we need to discuss the next steps and the details of the estate. As Mr. Adams speaks, I can't help but wonder what my father saw in me, what trust he had placed in my hands, and how I could ever live up to it amidst the wreckage of our family unity. The silence following Mr. Adams's revelation feels as heavy as the sorrow I felt at my father's funeral. Claudia and Victoria's anger fills the room, crashing against my shock like relentless waves against a cliff. For a moment, no one says anything. We're frozen in place, the weight of my father's will slicing through the air like a chill wind. My reasons, Mr. Adams continues, addressing me directly, are explained in a personal letter your father left for you, Elena. I am to give it to you after we finish here. Victoria's voice breaks the silence. There must be some mistake, she protests, her words echoing off the walls, igniting a conflict I have no desire to engage in. Jan puts a hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her, but her determination remains unyielding. How can she just inherit everything? Victoria's tone rises sharply, incredulous. And what about us? Are we suddenly strangers he's decided to abandon after everything we've done for him? She wields her words like a weapon, her disbelief escalating into a crescendo of frustration. Claudia's shocked facade gives way to anger. Exactly. There must be some provision for this, some oversight or option to challenge it. This is absurd. Her hands tighten on the chair's arms, her knuckles turning white. I finally speak up, my voice weak even to my own ears. I don't understand. Why would Dad do this? What was he thinking? My mind races with unanswered questions, all leading back to a man I now realize I may never have truly known. Mr. Adams takes off his glasses, rubbing his nose before replying. Martin had his reasons and he wanted you to understand them, in his own words. As for Claudia and Victoria, he turns to them, you have the option to contest the will if you choose. Though Martin's intentions were clear, and his mental soundness when drafting it is well documented. The room erupts into chaos once again, voices overlapping as Claudia and Victoria express their anger and confusion, scrambling to devise a plan. I barely register their words. My thoughts are fixated on the unopened letter, a final message from my father that rests ominously on the table. Taking a deep breath, I reach for it. The paper feels weightless yet heavy in my hands. Unfolding the folds, I prepare to read the words of a man who chose to speak beyond the grave rather than in life, a man who has bequeathed me an inheritance that feels more like a poisoned chalice than a gift of blessings. Alone in my room, with the door closed tight, I unfold the letter with hands that won't stop shaking. Each crease seems to whisper my father's voice, and as his written words emerge, I brace myself for the understanding they bring. Dearest Alina, it starts in his familiar handwriting. As you read this, I am sorry. Sorry I can't say these things to you in person. Sorry for leaving you with a burden no parent should pass to their child. His apology, immediate and heartfelt, cuts through the legal complexities and stark revelations of moments ago. I take a deep breath, finding solace in the scent of ink on paper. Your strength, your discipline, and your vision for a better world have never gone unnoticed by me. In you I saw the promise of a future built on honesty and integrity, far from the grasp of greed. The paper quivers in my grip, stirred not by a draft through the old window, but by the flood of emotions it releases. I continue reading, eyes fixed on the page. Elena, I have not been blind to the dynamics in our household. Your patience and hard work in the face of neglect from your mother and sister have been both my sorrow and my pride. Entrusting you with my entire estate is my attempt to reconcile the unfair burdens you've had to bear. With each sentence, my father weaves a tapestry of his unspoken observations and quiet support. The man who often seemed distant had been watching closely, understanding more than he let on. My only wish is that this inheritance grants you the freedom and resources to pursue the dreams that burn brightly within you. Don't feel obligated to mend what was broken long before you could make a difference. Live the life you deserve, my Alina. Folding the letter, I hold it against my chest, feeling the love etched in ink by a father who recognized his daughter's selfless sacrifices. A surge of determination mingled with the grief that had shadowed me since his passing, washes over me. Leaving the sanctuary of my room, I re-enter the tempest of my fractured family. Mr. Adams meets my gaze with a silent query as I join them. Claudia's stare is sharp and fixed on me, while Victoria paces like a caged animal, her earlier anger now tinged with desperation. It's time we discuss what comes next, I declare, my voice steadier than I feel. Claudia scoffed. What happens next is that we challenge this absurdity. Victoria nodded fiercely. You can't just take everything, Elena. We deserve our fair share. Mr. Adams intervened. Challenging the will would be a lengthy and costly process with no guaranteed outcome. Martin's wishes are clear and well within his rights to enforce. With my father's heartfelt words weighing heavily in my thoughts, I faced them. The family that had never quite felt like a family. It wasn't my decision, but it was his, and I intend to respect it. Tension gripped us all like chains, but amidst the turmoil, one truth remained resolute. I would fulfill my duty, uphold my father's wishes, and perhaps in doing so, forge my own path towards a better future. In the days that followed, our home became a battleground of eerie silences and explosive arguments. Victoria and Claudia scoured legal avenues, consulting lawyers and searching for any loophole to contest the will. They clung stubbornly to the belief that they were entitled to Martin's legacy, viewing it more as their rightful inheritance than a reflection of a man's lifetime of work. Despite their persistent efforts, Mr. Adams remained steadfast, a calm presence amid the storm. His reassurances were a source of solace as we navigated the complexities of settling the estate. The will is solid, Elena, he would remind me over cups of lukewarm coffee in the formal dining room. You don't need to be concerned about their threats. Yet despite Mr. Adams's confidence, guilt gnawed at me. Was it fair to accept everything while leaving my mother and sister with nothing? Intellectually, I understood my father had his reasons, but emotionally, I struggled with the lingering sense of familial duty, a desire to mend what was broken, even knowing it might be beyond repair. My days were consumed by preparing for legal challenges and diving into my father's financial affairs. The responsibility felt overwhelming, analyzing numbers, making decisions about properties and investments I had never known existed. Each task felt like navigating through thick fog, but I was determined to honor my father's trust and see it through. Amidst scrutinizing financial statements, my thoughts drifted to the life awaiting beyond these walls, how I could use this inheritance to forge a path that aligned with my values, how I could make a meaningful impact on the world. Amidst the escalating chaos, Claudia and Victoria's true colors emerged in bursts of pettiness and malice. Victoria impulsively claimed sentimental family heirlooms, while Claudia hinted at dark secrets that could tarnish Martin's reputation. Their tactics were aimed at undermining me, testing my resolve, but I had learned to navigate their emotional traps with caution. On a particularly tense evening, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken threats and icy stares, I reached my breaking point. Enough, I declared, the single word cutting through the tension like a blade. 3 pairs of eyes focused on me, uncertain, wary. I can't give you what Dad didn't leave for you, but I can help you start fresh somewhere else. Their shock was tangible, a sudden shift in the power dynamics they had been trying to manipulate. It won't be a life of luxury, but it will be a new beginning. Claudia's laughter cut through the air, devoid of humor. A consolation prize from our dear Elena. How generous. Her sarcasm stung, but I remained resolute, shielded by years of hardened resolve. Despite the bitterness hanging between us, I stood firm. It's not about winning or losing, it's a choice. Take it or leave it, but know this, I'm moving forward with or without your approval. Their response was a mixture of silence and reluctant nods, a fragile agreement born from the clash of self-interest and necessity. Retreating to my room, the weight of my father's letter in my pocket reminded me of the path ahead, one where I would navigate not just the inheritance, but also discover who I would become because of it. Days turned into weeks filled with meetings with Mr. Adams and navigating the complexities of managing my inheritance. Claudia and Victoria, begrudgingly accepting my offer, began their search for a more modest home. The tension eased somewhat, yet a coldness lingered in the air deeper than the approaching winter. It was a time of solitude amid chaos, the house growing emptier with each packed box and removed piece of furniture. I found solace in my father's study, a haven untouched by time, a capsule of the past where family tensions once simmered beneath the surface of daily life. The day arrived when Claudia and Victoria left the house for good. With a signed check and a brief farewell, they departed, taking with them remnants of a life forever altered. Standing in the doorway, I watched their car fade around the bend, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. It was time to focus on the future. With Mr. Adams' guidance, I established a charitable foundation in my father's name, dedicated to providing educational opportunities for disadvantaged students, echoing the aspirations of my younger self who once felt her dreams were out of reach within our home. I enrolled in graduate school, pursuing a journalism program that aligned with my long-held career goals. With my father's network and the resources now available to me, I secured an internship at a respected newspaper. My life became a whirlwind of activity, immersed in pursuing stories and advocating for justice, themes my father and I had often discussed during his frequent business trips, now seeming like distant memories. These days, life keeps me constantly moving, carrying the principles my father instilled in me wherever I go. The house, once confining, has transformed into a true home as I've made it my own. I've repainted walls, rearranged furniture, and welcomed a rescue dog, a lively companion whose barks and playful energy filled the once empty spaces with joy. Rooms that once witnessed family discord now echo with the warmth of friends, colleagues, and shared laughter. Occasionally, I retreat to my father's study, immersing myself in his old letters and weathered books. My gaze often rests on his signature at the bottom of his letter, the final message that reshaped my life. "Duty and love," he wrote, "are the strongest forces we wield. Use them well." In those quiet moments, surrounded by his legacy of words and wisdom, I silently pledged to honor his memory by doing just that.
I initiated the divorce proceedings, deeming a financially struggling spouse to be of little value. My world was shaken when, during a business trip, my husband abruptly declared not only his intent to divorce, but also his simultaneous marriage to his lover. To add insult to injury, he accused me of marrying him solely for his wealth and demanded I forfeit any claims to our property. Confronting my indifferent husband, who had always treated me with disdain since our marriage, led to his unraveling and a downward spiral to rock bottom. I am Karen, 35 years old, raised by a single mother since my father's passing in kindergarten. Despite the financial challenges, we found happiness as a family of 3. Even as an adult with a decent salary, my frugal habits persisted from childhood. I married John, a wealthy man I met through an acquaintance, drawn to his kindness and the new world he presented. Our differing views on money and gender roles emerged after marriage. While John envisioned a traditional household, I was dedicated to my career and financial independence. Before marriage, John suggested I become a homemaker, assuming I would embrace traditional domestic roles. However, I expressed my desire to continue working until we had children, emphasizing the financial benefits. Although I managed to convince him, the reality of balancing work and household chores proved challenging. Despite being a full-time employee, my days were consumed with domestic responsibilities, leaving little time for us as a couple. In contrast, John, adopting a traditional husband role, contributed nothing to household tasks. While he witnessed my busy schedule, he simply indulged in dinner and relaxation upon returning home. Balancing work and domestic responsibilities took a toll on our relationship, prompting me to question if this was the essence of a marriage. Despite my efforts, I hesitated to voice my dissatisfaction. Fearing he might insist I quit my job despite his lack of contribution at home. I had hoped that the arrival of children would bring about a positive change in our relationship. Unfortunately, our connection had grown distant, casting doubt on the possibility of expanding our family. Feeling the urgency to discuss this matter, I approached John. "Hey, we should start considering having kids, right?" "Ha, kids? You're quite energetic, considering you're tired from work and chores." "It's not about that. I want to have children. We haven't been married that long, but I'm already over 30. Women have a limited time to have children, and it's getting harder for me to conceive as I get older. It's almost too late. But we don't need kids. If we have one, you'll expect me to help, right? You know I'm busy with work, and I won't help with child rearing." Declaring you won't help with child rearing even before they're born is strange, isn't it? I plan to raise them alone, but shouldn't you at least have the intention to help? It's your child too. Child rearing is your job. I'm working to support the family, so I definitely won't help with the kids. You'll just complain that I don't help, making me the bad guy. You must have been indoctrinated with poverty and lots of kids since birth. We're not poor. We don't need kids. End of discussion. John abruptly ended the conversation, retreating to his room. Alone in the living room, tears overwhelmed me. My desire for children was not only rejected, but my upbringing was also mocked. Following this incident, our relationship deteriorated rapidly. Communication became scarce, and the possibility of having children seemed more distant. As I continued to juggle work and home responsibilities, taking on significant projects at work, I found myself increasingly distant from John. One day, when informing him about an upcoming business trip, his unexpected kindness surprised me. He wished me well and hinted at a big surprise upon my return. Despite having given up on him, his smile shook my resolve. However, my faint hope was shattered upon returning home. The front door wouldn't open, and John revealed the first surprise. He had changed the locks. The second surprise was the announcement of our divorce. He claimed to have forged my signature and submitted the papers with a friend as a witness. Inside, he presented a document for me to sign, waiving my rights to property division. Protesting the false accusations, I insisted on a mutual renunciation of property rights, intending to make it a public document. John, stubbornly retorting, redid the document on his computer, initiating a tense exchange. As I left the house, he continued to scorn me for being poor, even contemplating discarding my belongings. A few days later, John, in a state of panic, called me, wondering what I had done. "What do you mean I haven't done anything? Why are you panicking?" "I have a lot of questions. First, I was told to leave the apartment." "Oh, you were still living there. That's not allowed. It's a new month. You're trespassing." "Trespassing? But it's my house. Are you okay? Did you forget that it was a company apartment I rented? I was the leaseholder, so naturally, you can't live there anymore." "That's ridiculous. How could you do this? I can't believe you didn't know. I'm not the one who should be accused of doing things on my own. Didn't I tell you that you can't just change the locks of a rental apartment? It's my house. I can change the locks if I want. Didn't you listen? It was my leased apartment. Even if you were the leaseholder, the owner is the apartment manager. You can't change the locks without informing them." "Is that so? Also, I terminated the lease while you changed the locks. I was allowed to live there until this month. I was planning to return, but now you've unlawfully altered someone else's property, which could be criminal damage. Wait, why did you terminate it so early? Criminal damage? Is that why the police are at the front door now? I'm too scared to open it." But I calmly replied, "So the police did come. Don't worry, it's probably not for trespassing or criminal damage. It's better to talk to them." "Why do I know about the police?" "Because I reported you for filing the divorce papers yourself. It seems like you've committed crimes like forgery and fraudulent use of a private document. Divorce papers can be filed by one person, but only with mutual agreement and personal signatures. Since John forged my signature and the witness, it's obvious that it's a crime." But he seemed unaware of his guilt. I continued pressing further. So the divorce papers you submitted are invalid, and your marriage with Susan can't happen either. How do you know about Susan? Did you think I knew nothing? I had a private detective agency thoroughly investigate your affair with Susan. It was a busy time at work, and coordinating with the agency was tough. Plus, you even held a grand wedding ceremony while I was supposedly on a business trip. Are you okay? Your business trip was a lie. Yes, I took leave from work, despite being busy, to do some research and prepare documents. I knew about you bringing Susan home. It would have been impossible to gather this evidence while working. After I revealed everything, John was speechless and seemed quite downcast even over the phone. Then he pleaded with me, "Please don't tell Susan I'm divorced." Why would I? There's no such fact to tell. Really? Thank you. Are you misunderstanding something? When did you become divorced? That fake divorce paper is invalid, remember? So legally, you're still my husband, not divorced. What? So since you committed adultery, well, legally, my husband, Susan needs to pay compensation. I sent the demand for reparation to her house yesterday by express delivery. She didn't know you were married, right? Then I can't withdraw the claim at this point. I already knew Susan believed John was single, but I deliberately sent the reparation demand. Susan hasn't contacted me yet, so maybe she hasn't received the letter. It should arrive soon. Should you be on the phone with me when you also have to deal with the police? You're busy? I'll ignore the police. I won't be arrested. I'm going to Susan's house now to get the letter back before she or her family can accept it. He then hung up. He probably went straight to Susan's house to wait for the postman at the front door. I knew it would be futile because the letter was sent as registered mail to Susan only. Even if he waited for the postman, he couldn't receive it. A few hours later, a dispirited John called me. According to him, there was an incident when the postman arrived. Finally, I'll take that envelope. Who are you? You don't live here, right? I'm practically a resident here since I'm married. I have the right to receive the mail. I see, but I can't give you this envelope. It's registered mail for Susan only. What? Give it to me. Absolutely not. If you're so eager, ask Susan for permission. What's going on here? Oh, John, what's all this noise? What's happening? Ah, Susan, this is registered mail for you. This man insisted on taking it. Sorry for the disturbance. Now I'll be on my way. What's this? A demand for reparation. John, you are married. What's going on here? Sorry, it's just, she's an ex-wife from a long time ago. I was embarrassed to say I'm divorced. I'm sorry for keeping it secret. But it's strange, isn't it? We haven't been dating long, and a demand for reparation? If you were divorced before we started dating, there shouldn't be any problem, right? Well, my ex-wife is crazy. Maybe she's demanding reparation out of spite because I got married. That was the excuse he gave, but such a lie was quickly exposed. The envelope included a letter I wrote along with my contact information, so Susan called me directly. In that call, I told her about the affair, the invalid divorce, and that they had a wedding ceremony while he was still married to me. Although they had a wedding ceremony, they hadn't submitted the marriage registration yet. John wanted to submit it on April Fool's Day, so it was still pending. He probably delayed submitting the marriage registration due to uncertainty about whether the divorce was finalized. After being exposed, John fled from Susan's house and shamelessly contacted me again. I still had something to tell him, so we agreed to meet at a nearby cafe. As soon as I arrived, John said, "Karen, please withdraw the reparation claim. Let's pretend we've been separated for a long time and officially divorced now. I can apologize to Susan for being secretly divorced and maybe cover it up. You think I'm desperate to stay married to you. I was going to file for divorce anyway, but since you cheated, you'll pay reparation. Just trying to extort money from me, huh? Typical of the poor. You have such a poor heart. You're talking nonsense. Depending on my answer, everything can change. There's still an option where we don't divorce. If I say no, you can't reject it, meaning you can't marry Susan, and your marital status will be exposed. Fine, I'll pay the reparation. Just divorce me now. Sign here. Then, about property division. Property division? How much more do you want to take from me? Reparation should be enough. Remember, we agreed to waive property division, right? So let's make it official. All right. You're not as bad as I thought. Thank you. We then went to a public notary, made a public document for reparation and property division, and then to the city hall to submit the divorce papers, finalizing our divorce. Relieved, I exchanged final words with John. Glad we don't have to divide property. What are you saying? I'm the one who benefits from that. By the way, do you even have assets after paying me reparation? Susan will also claim damages. She mentioned charging you for the wedding expenses. That's impossible. I'm marrying Susan. She can't claim that. We're divorced now, so there should be no problem. Still living in a fantasy. You committed marriage fraud. You had a wedding while still married. You think Susan still believes you? Marriage fraud? That's ridiculous. Susan will believe me. Believe that if you want. I heard from Susan directly. Also, weren't the guests at your wedding paid actors? You still owe them. You knew about that. I haven't paid them yet. What does it matter to you? You could have just taken property division and been better off. That's what I wanted to tell you. Even if we had divided property, you would have benefited more. What are you talking about, poor woman? Your family is poor, and you only make $15,000 a year, right? Even if you got a raise, it would be barely $20,000. You don't have any property. You keep calling me poor, so I thought you might be mistaken. Yes, my salary is indeed $15,000. But you know I work for a foreign company, right? It seems you have no interest in me. But I became a director of the American branch. It's not $115,000 per year, but per month. $155,000 per month. So that's an annual income of $1.8 million. You're still bad with numbers. How do you manage to keep a job? It's $180,000 a year. $180,000? That can't be true. Of course, I haven't had the chance to spend such an amount. So I've been saving it for the future. The savings from before our marriage aren't part of the property division, but there's still a considerable amount since our marriage. So I could have received half of that in the property division. You are my destiny after all. I'll get the divorce papers corrected. Are you okay? After all the contempt, you think I'd gladly undo the divorce if you had that much money. You don't need to claim reparation, right? It's just a small amount for you. He who laughs at 1 cent will weep for 1 cent. This reparation is for the mental anguish you caused me. I'd like to claim more honestly. And since we've made it official, make sure to pay it even in installments. I'll be penniless. Also, don't go back to that apartment. Your belongings should have been moved to your parents' house by now. You thought I had few belongings, but that was because I had already moved. Most of them were. Were you that indifferent to me? I can't have so little, so I have to go back to my parents' house. They don't know anything yet, do they? Let me explain. Don't say anything. I've already told them everything. It's only right to explain why we're divorcing. Oh, and your father said, don't ever step over our threshold again, so I have nowhere to go. He collapsed, and I left the cafe. Later, I heard he caused trouble at the police station. Despite my advice, he went back to the apartment. He sat there aimlessly in the empty apartment until the manager called the police, and he was taken away. I'm not sure if it was for obstructing public duties, trespassing, or for the falsified divorce papers. Eventually, his parents took responsibility for him. After talking with me and learning about Susan, they decided that apologizing and paying damages to Susan's family came first. They went to Susan's house to apologize, kneeling in front of her family. They settled everything without pressing charges for marriage fraud, even paying for the wedding expenses. I had expected them to sue, so it was disappointing they didn't. So, I decided to pursue legal action against him for forging the divorce papers. John offered a settlement, but I didn't withdraw the lawsuit. I didn't want him to think everything could be solved with money. I wanted him to be convicted and understand the gravity of his actions, even if it cost time and money. I left everything to my lawyer, so it wasn't too burdensome for me. Even though it took time, John, exposed for his actions and the marriage fraud at his company, couldn't stay there anymore. After being detained by the police and subsequently absent without leave, he was eventually fired. He ended up living at his parents' home, working all day at a relative's construction company. His father took all his earnings, leaving him with no income. I thought his parents wouldn't abandon him, but they were stricter than I expected. They paid my reparation and Susan's compensation, planning to make him work like a horse until he repaid everything. He lived in a shed-like place with no electricity, receiving only $5 per day for food, deducted from his salary. They plan to disown and kick him out once he's repaid everything. A harsh fate after years of hard work. I was offered a position at the head office abroad, so I moved overseas after the divorce was finalized. I worried John might come to me for help or harbor resentment, but moving abroad alleviated those concerns. I thought work would be my partner for a while, but soon I found a new relationship. I'm now dating a foreign executive at our head office, and I'm pregnant with plans to marry soon. I told him everything about my past and my ex-husband, and he's understanding. I'll take maternity leave and plan to return to work later, supported by him. He's enthusiastic about taking paternity leave and co-parenting, showing a different cultural perspective. After being tormented by my ex-husband, I finally feel I'm grasping true happiness and confidence in building the happy family I've always dreamed of. Many suffer due to selfish spouses, and while divorce isn't always the right choice, enduring silence isn't a virtue. It's important to know that honest discussions can lead to resolutions, and sometimes divorce is a necessary option.
The moving van sat idled by the curb, its rear door gaping open like a hungry maw. I stared in disbelief as the last remnants of my life were carted out of the house I had called home for 30 years. "What is going on here?" I demanded, hands trembling as I gripped the strap of my purse. Elliot turned towards me, his expression one of feigned surprise. The smug grin tugging at the corners of his mouth said it all. He knew exactly what he was doing. "Harper, you're back early," he said coolly, stuffing his hands into the pockets of his chinos. I bristled at his casual tone. "Don't Harper me. What have you done?" Before he could respond, a lilting voice cut through the tension. "There you are, Elliot, darling." A statuesque blonde in a ridiculously short sundress slinked up beside him, looping her arm through his. My stomach twisted into a knot as her identity became clear. Marla, Elliot's mistress from the office, the one he had sworn was ancient history. I should have known better than to trust his lies. You sold our home?" I choked out the words, praying this was some cruel joke. "After everything we've been through together?" Elliot opened his mouth, but I barreled on, anger and hurt swelling within me. "The sacrifices I made when your business failed, caring for your awful mother when she fell ill, pouring my life into this house, into our marriage?" I was nearly shouting now, hot tears streaking my cheeks. Marla wrapped her arms around Elliot in a sickening display of possession. "Don't get hysterical, Harper. It's just business." Just business. After 30 years of partnership, of struggling and persevering side by side, he was tossing me aside like a used rag. For her. I rounded on Elliot, squaring my shoulders. "You lying, cheating snake, you're willing to destroy everything we built together for this?" Elliot avoided my gaze, the muscles in his jaw twitching. He knew he had been caught red-handed in his web of deceit. The seconds ticked by in silence, the only sound the sudden clatter as the movers heaved the last of our belongings into the van. It was really happening. The man I had loved and trusted above all else had betrayed me in the cruelest way imaginable. Marla sneered at me over Elliot's shoulder. "Time to move on, Harper. This is our new beginning." Their smugness was more than I could bear. Squaring my shoulders, I jutted my chin defiantly at the pair. "You want a new beginning? Fine, but mark my words, this isn't over." Turning on my heel, I stalked away from the home I had poured my heart and soul into, leaving the shattered remains of my marriage behind. The game was on. Elliot and his mistress had started a war, and I would be damned if I went down without a fight. I barely slept that night, that the image of Elliot smugly carrying on with his mistress scorched into my mind. How could the man I had loved, the father of my children, be so callous and cruel? My anger simmered as I paced the guest room of Alex's apartment, the temporary living situation doing nothing to soften the sting of Elliot's betrayal. I had given that man everything, my unwavering support through hard times, my love and loyalty for 3 decades. And this was how he repaid me? The shrill ring of my cell phone sliced through the tense silence. Jenna's name flashed across the screen. Mom? Her voice wobbled with unshed tears. Is it true what Alex told me? Dad left you for some young thing? My chest tightened. Having to explain this nightmare to my children was almost worse than living through it myself. They had always looked up to their father, despite his litany of shortcomings over the years. I'm so sorry, honey. Your father and I, we're getting divorced. I cringed at how matter-of-fact the words sounded, like I was reporting groceries rather than the imminent dissolution of my marriage. An angry silence crackled down the line. When Jenna spoke again, her tone was low and uncompromising. That selfish bastard, after everything you sacrificed for him and this family? She broke off in a choked sob. Mom, I'm coming over. We're gonna get through this together. Thank you, sweetie, I murmured, feeling a surge of pride at my daughter's fierce loyalty. At least I could count on my children, despite their father's despicable actions. A few hours later, Jenna burst into the apartment, red-faced and bristling. Alex sat slouched on the sofa, his expression one of carefully restrained rage. That low-life piece of scum, Jenna spat, flinging herself into the armchair beside me, throwing away 30 years of marriage for a cheap fling? Unfreaking believable. Jenna, Alex warned in a low voice. No, Alex, I won't stay quiet. He humiliated Mom in the worst way. She wheeled towards me, eyes blazing. Please tell me you're taking him for every last penny. I studied my daughter's fierce protectiveness and loyalty, my heart swelling despite the misery of my circumstances. This was the family I cared about, the ones who had my back no matter what. Squaring my shoulders, I returned Jenna's determined stare. You're damn right I am. If that rat bastard Elliot thinks he can just discard me and our marriage, he has another thing coming. My gaze slid towards Alex, who gave a somber nod of agreement. A muscle twitched in his clenched jaw. We're with you every step of the way, Mom. Just let us know whatever you need. In that moment, I felt a surge of resolve. Elliot and his mistress had detonated a bomb that shattered my life into pieces, but if he thought I would go down without a fight, he was gravely mistaken. It was time to show my soon-to-be ex-husband exactly why hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Squaring my shoulders, I looked my children in the eyes. Here's what we're gonna do. The divorce proceedings were uglier than I could have imagined. Elliot fought me tooth and nail, contesting everything from asset division to alimony. His smug arrogance in the courtroom made my blood boil. Your Honor, my client has devoted her entire adult life to supporting Mr. Monroe's endeavors, often at great personal cost, my lawyer argued, throwing a pointed look at Elliot. She put her career on hold to raise their children, manage the household, and provide emotional support through failed business ventures. She is more than entitled to an equitable share of the marital assets. Elliot's eyes narrowed into serpentine slits. That condescending sneer I knew all too well twisted his lips. He seemed to forget I sat just a few feet away, watching his every arrogant micro-expression. With all due respect, his lawyer oozed, Mr. Monroe's recent financial windfall stems from the prudent sale of the marital home he purchased prior to the marriage. My client's new business partner, he threw a deferential nod at that blonde bimbo Marla, simply provided the funds to unlock the asset's latent value. Mrs. Monroe's demands are exorbitant given her minimal contributions. You lying sack of scum, I mentally hurled at my soon-to-be ex-husband. I burned with impotent rage, wanting nothing more than to hurl the nearest heavy object at his insufferably smug face. The arrogance. To dismiss 3 decades of selfless partnership, putting his wants ahead of my own dreams, raising our children almost single-handedly, and dragging his worthless carcass back from the brink of financial ruin as minimal contributions. White-hot fury lanced through me.
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alex leaning forward, his hands knotted into white-knuckled fists atop his knees. Jenna put a calming hand on his arm, her own eyes glinting with outrage. "Mom's the one who kept this family afloat while you were off chasing yet another get-rich-quick scheme," Alex hissed under his breath, low enough for just me to hear. "Don't you dare try to rewrite history in that condescending way." I squeezed his hand in gratitude, stoking the fires of my own resolve. We had fought too hard, sacrificed too much of our lives, to let Elliot sweep it all under the rug now. If he thought I would go down without a fight, he had underestimated the wrong woman. The following days and weeks were consumed by a whirlwind of paperwork and legal appointments. With Alex and Jenna's assistance, I pored over financial statements, compiled records, and documented everything. No stone was left unturned. Gone were the days of meekly accepting Elliot's decisions, of surrendering pieces of myself for his desires and ego. I would expose every lie, every despicable act for the world to see. Elliot Monroe was about to learn a brutal lesson. You didn't get to spend 30 years leeching off a spouse's sacrifices and loyalty, discarding them like a used rag for your own selfish gratification without suffering immense consequences. Not on my watch. It was a new day. Armed with evidence and sheer determination, I was finally taking control of my destiny. Elliot's reckoning was coming, and nothing would stand in my way. The Westbrook Charity Gala was usually the highlight of my social calendar, a chance to dress up, rub elbows with the town's elite, and raise money for good causes. This year, my motivations were decidedly different. From the moment I arrived, eyes followed me like hawks, whispers rippling through the crowd. Word of Elliot's scandalous betrayal had spread like wildfire thanks to the divorce proceedings. My cheeks burned, but I lifted my chin defiantly, gliding across the marble floor with practiced grace. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted them. Elliot looking disarmingly handsome in his tuxedo, with that blonde bimbo Marla draped over his arm like a damn trophy. She stuck out like a sore thumb in that garish red dress that clung inappropriately to every curve. My fists clenched involuntarily at my sides. How dare they show their faces here after demolishing everything we'd built? The sheer arrogance of it made my blood boil. Elliot caught my withering stare and quickly averted his eyes, suddenly finding the crystal chandelier overhead fascinating. Good, let the craven weasel squirm under my gaze for once. Marla, however, sneered back at me, her scarlet lips curving into a mocking smile as she ran her ringed fingers along Elliot's arm in a possessive display. My jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. The MC's voice abruptly boomed from the speakers, beckoning everyone to their seats for the program's commencement. I took a fortifying breath, smoothing my hands over my evening gown. It was now or never. Abandoning my usual table, I weaved through the clusters of impeccably dressed guests until I stood front and center on the stage, microphone in hand. "Good evening, everyone," I began in a tone of forced civility. "As you all may know, I'm going through a difficult transition in my personal life currently." Elliot went rigid in his seat, realization dawning across his features. Marla's eyes narrowed to serpentine slits, her overglossed lips parting in outrage. My voice carried flawlessly to every corner of the vaulted ballroom. My husband of 30 years has chosen to abandoning our marriage vows, our family, and everything we built together in pursuit of. I threw Marla a pointed look. More self-indulgent desires. A shocked murmur rippled through the crowd like a Mexican wave. Elliot's ruddy face colored even further under the spotlight's glare. While I'm sure he and his new associate are quite proud of their clandestine dalliances, I wouldn't feel right letting such a prominent member of our community get away with such appalling deceptions. Marla shot to her feet, perfectly plucked eyebrows slanted furiously over her pale blue eyes. "How dare you drag us through the mud this way?" she shouted, planting her hands on her canted hips. "This is low, even for you." A vindicated smirk tugged at my lips. "Low?" I echoed over the crowd's stunned gasps. "Low is cheating on your wife of 3 decades and abandoning your family for a cheap fling. Low is lying, gaslighting, and manipulating those closest to you for your own selfish appetites." I leveled my gaze at Marla and the pinched, crimson-faced Elliot behind her. "No, revealing the unvarnished truth about your contemptible actions. That is justice. Maybe next time you'll both think twice before carelessly destroying human lives in pursuit of your transient desires. Turning on my heel, I surrendered the stage to thunderous applause and whistles, watching in satisfaction as Elliot buried his flaming face in his hands. The gloves were off. In front of the entire town, I had drawn the battle lines. Let the war begin. The gavel struck the wooden sound block with a decisive thump, echoing through the courtroom. My hands trembled as Judge Reynolds cleared his throat, shuffling through the stack of documents on his bench. In the matter of the divorce proceedings between Harper Monroe and Elliot Monroe, his voice carried the weight of finality. Elliot sat ramrod straight beside his lawyer, his expression unreadable. I forced myself to meet his gaze, letting none of the turbulent mix of anger, grief, and vindication roiling inside me show. After months of vicious legal battles, falsified financial records, and levels of deception I'd never imagined possible from the man I once loved, it all came down to this moment. My grip tightened around the armrests until my knuckles shone bone white. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, I thereby order Mr. Monroe to pay Mrs. Monroe a lump sum of $4 million. The judge's ruling sliced through the thick tension like a hot knife. In addition, Mrs. Monroe shall receive 60% of the liquid assets and investment portfolios accumulated during the marriage. A guttural sound of disbelief escaped Elliot's lips. His rictus mask of composure finally shattered, giving way to flushed, impotent rage. "Suck on that, you arrogant prick," I mentally hurled at him. Furthermore, Judge Reynolds spoke over Elliot's sputtering, Mrs. Monroe is awarded full ownership of the Monroe residence on Summit Hill Road, free and clear of all liens or encumbrances. My heart stuttered in my chest as the enormity hit me. He was giving me back the home Elliot had so gleefully sold out from under me. Our home, the place we had raised our children and built a life together for 30 years, would remain mine. Tears of sheer relief and vindication pricked my eyes. Alex squeezed my hand tightly beside me, a proud smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. "That lying snake got exactly what he deserved," he murmured under his breath. Jenna leaned across him and enveloped me in a fierce hug, openly weeping tears of joy. Beyond them, Elliot sat utterly motionless, his face drained of all color. The full weight of his actions had finally caught up with him. As I strode triumphantly from the courtroom to raucous cheers and applause from my friends and supporters, I was vividly reminded of the scorpion and frog fable. Elliot had thoughtlessly stung me, his faithful partner who carried him across the tumultuous waters of life, and now he would drown in the consequences of his treachery. But I intended to do more than simply survive his betrayal. With this ruling, I had been afforded a new lease on life, a chance to heal, to rebuild, and to pursue all the hopes and dreams I had put on hold for that ungrateful bastard. And I would be damned if I didn't take this second chance and run with it full throttle. 6 weeks later, I stood in the marble foyer of my reacquired home, drinking in the warm, familiar surroundings as the moving crew unloaded my belongings. The mover grunts and thuds providing a stark counterpoint to the eerie silence and memories that hung thick in the air. This place had been the backdrop to my once happy marriage, the birthplace of cherished family memories, unbreakable bonds between husband and wife, and dreams of growing old together. Elliot's lies and callous greed had very nearly ripped it all away. But not anymore. Tilting my chin up, I surveyed the cavernous front room, envisioning the fresh start taking shape before me. This house, this life, belonged solely to me and my children now. The shackles of deception and manipulation were finally severed. It was time to reclaim my dignity, my identity, and take that first defiant step into my bold new chapter. Just when I thought I was finally free of Elliot's treachery, the other shoe dropped with a sickening thud. "You're doing what?" I sputtered, gaping at Jenna over the breakfast bar. She slid a sleek brochure across the granite countertop toward me with a grim look. "Dad and Marla are opening up some sort of luxury bed and breakfast." My stomach twisted into a queasy knot as I scanned the high-gloss photos advertising their premier inn and chateau in a pristine mountain setting. I could only imagine how much of my divorce settlement went into funding this mockery. "That arrogant son of a bitch," I hissed under my breath. "The place opens in 3 months," Jenna continued, fire blazing behind her eyes. using the cash he swindled from selling our home, no less. Bitter bile burned the back of my throat. Of course, that weasel Elliot wouldn't be content until he'd twisted the knife one last time, flaunting his ill-gotten trophy acquisition in a lavish new business venture. It was the ultimate insult. In that fateful moment, something inside me hardened like carbon under immense pressure. Elliot had made his move, ramming home just how little our marriage and my sacrifices had ever meant. The gloves were officially off. "You know what?" I said, looking up at Jenna with a steely determination. "Two can play at this game." Over the next couple weeks, I quietly put my business skills to work. Between the millions from my divorce settlement, unbridled passion, and an unquenchable drive to crush Elliot once and for all, those old familiar thrills of strategizing and building something from the ground up reignited hot in my veins. Before long, the pieces fell into place with impeccable precision, the perfect location secured, permits and licenses filed, and employees hired. Elliot's smug comeuppance had become my singular obsession. Of course, I kept the entire operation strictly under wraps, waiting for the perfect opportunity to skin the cat. That chance arose when Alex called me with a frantic update. "Mom, you'll never guess what. They invited us to some big launch party for their stupid inn." Elliot and his mistress, foolishly dangling their bait. I could taste the sweet promise of revenge on my tongue. Did they now? I purred into the phone. My son's confusion was palpable. 2 weeks later, Elliot and I stood amidst the opulent trappings of his Monroe Inn and Resort launch gala. With a bored flick of the champagne flute, I signaled Alex to join us by the towering picture windows. Elliot's serpentine gaze immediately narrowed with displeasure, so predictable. "I must congratulate you both on this quaint establishment," I began. My tone dripped with sugary condescension. Marla bristled, straightening the tight bodice of her obscene cocktail dress. "Why, Harper, how big of you to join our celebration." Elliot merely stared at me, dumbfounded. "Although, I can't help feeling it's missing something." I paused dramatically, watching fresh color bloom across his cheeks. "Some competition, if you will, to keep you on your toes." "Competition?" His voice finally barked out a brusque response. "What the devil are you talking about?" With a serene smile, I looped my arm through Alex's elbow. "Why don't I show you both instead?" We swept through the ballroom, Elliot and his trampy mistress gawking like hooked fish at our heels. A bank of French doors waited at the opposite end, where the remainder of my crew hovered in anticipation. "Elliot, Marla, welcome to the grand opening of the Chateau Sophia." At my signal, the doors swung wide, revealing the sprawling vista of the property I had meticulously assembled to be bigger, bolder, and infinitely more upscale than their paltry imitation. Their jaws dropped in horror at the sight. "You didn't really think I was going to let you prance around with my life's work unchallenged, did you?" My eyes glittered with malicious glee. As my new employees swarmed the terrace behind me, a messenger arrived with urgent news for Elliot. His backers were pulling funding over the 11th hour competition. The arrogant blowhard gaped at me, the color rapidly draining from his blustered features. I offered a mocking toast of my champagne glass. "To new beginnings, darling. Welcome to the hospitality wars." The opening months of the Chateau Sophia could hardly have gone better. Our elegant, rustic chic accommodations and curated experiences were an immediate hit, drawing rave reviews and becoming the area's hottest destination. In stark contrast, Elliot's half-baked Monroe Inn and Resort limped along in obscurity. Their online listings were littered with scathing critiques, shabby decor, subpar amenities, and painfully amateurish service chief among the complaints. Seeing that arrogant blowhard receive his long-overdue comeuppance was more satisfying than I could have possibly imagined. Each scathing review, every vacant room, and negative press mention further cemented his colossal failures as both a businessman and human being. Every few weeks, I would gather my team for an all-hands meeting to align our strategy. More than once, Elliot's petty attempts at sabotaging my operations through underhanded tactics were uncovered and swiftly neutralized. The bastard tried bribing the Campbell family to leave us a scathing review, Renee, my operations lead, told me one afternoon. A contemptuous sneer twisted her lips, as if a wealthy clan like that would ever sully their reputation for a few measly bucks. I waved a dismissive hand, hiding my vindicated smirk behind a sip of coffee. That's just how low Elliot will stoop. He's flailing desperately to stay afloat, but it won't be enough. Sure enough, it was barely 2 months into our heated battle for hospitality supremacy that the unraveling began. Rumor had it, Elliot was hemorrhaging cash at an unsustainable clip, having wildly underestimated startup costs and failing to gain a foothold in the market. When the foreclosure notices started appearing in the local paper's legal announcements, I couldn't resist a wry smile of triumph. Textbook overconfident arrogance, bulldozing ahead without doing his due diligence. It was so quintessentially Elliot. Later that week, Alex forwarded me a scathing article about the pending closure of the Monroe Inn. Turns out Elliot had stopped paying vendors, staff, and underlying creditors in a desperate bid to keep the facade going. His investors, those few who hadn't already pulled their funding, were going to get hosed. The comments section was a virtual bonfire of schadenfreude, with locals and former patrons alike torching Elliot for his litany of failures. Just desserts for such a prolific liar and cheat. Not long after, I found myself across the polished alderwood desk from the one and only Elliot Monroe. He was noticeably haggard, the last bastions of his smarmy confidence crumbling under the crushing weight of his debacle. "I'm destitute, Harper," he admitted in a hoarse tone, unable to meet my unblinking stare. "The business, the investors, it's all gone belly up. I have nothing." The disgraced charlatan finally confessing the depths of his depravity should have felt enormously vindicating. Instead, I just felt hollow, numb to the man whose betrayal had nearly decimated my soul. "After everything you did to me, to us," I murmured, gesturing between us, "did you really think I was just going to roll over and let you win?" His jaw clenched, tendons straining beneath his ruddy skin. I leaned forward, holding his gaze with steely determination. "Wake up and face reality, Elliot. You're an arrogant, insecure little man whose own reprehensible actions orchestrated this downfall. All I did was give you the chance to reap what you've sown." My office abruptly felt too small, the air heavy with decades of simmering resentments. This confrontation had been a long time coming. "Please." The broken whisper escaped Elliot's lips. I waited for the rest, but he seemed to shrink further in on himself, deflating like an untied balloon. In that moment, I realized just how profoundly over him I was. The man had gambled away my love, my loyalty, our life, for his own selfish cravings. He deserved no more of my energy or power. Rising to my feet, I smoothed my hands over my skirt and crossed to the door. "I'm afraid there's nothing left to say. Don't let the door hit you on the way out." As Elliot slunk from the office in disgrace, I felt an unfurling sense of finality. Whatever puppet strings had still bound me were severed. My karma delivered. His miserable fate sealed. It was a new beginning in the truest sense. And I had miles more to go before reaching my final form. The warm summer breeze carried the fragrance of freshly bloomed roses and honeysuckle as I stood on the terrace, surveying my personal oasis. After more than a year of stratospheric success with the Chateau Sophia, I had seized the opportunity to expand into a full-service luxury resort and spa. My staff bustled about in crisp uniforms, meticulously prepping for the grand opening gala. Lanterns were strung between marble columns, and sleek white cabanas dotted the immaculate grounds. I inhaled deeply, savoring the sweet air and sense of peaceful accomplishment. This night marked the culmination of a years-long journey, one driven by sheer determination to not just survive betrayal, but to thrive in defiance of it. "It's really something, huh, Mom?" Alex's voice shook me from my reverie. I turned to find him beaming with pride, Jenna looped through his arm in a chic sundress. Despite the years and tumult we'd endured, my children still stood staunchly by my side. "You've built an amazing legacy, one we're all so proud of," Jenna gushed. Emotions swelled in my throat as I pulled them both into a fierce embrace. Just a couple years ago, our family had been in tatters, each of us suffering the devastating blows of Elliot's callous betrayal. We never could have imagined coming out on the other side like this. "I couldn't have done any of this without you two," I said gruffly, blinking back happy tears. "Your love and support gave me the strength to keep going, no matter what." We stood together in comfortable silence, cherishing the profoundly transformed trajectory of our lives. The agonizing days of despair and hurt were finally behind us. A gentle rap on the terrace doors signaled an arrival. I turned to find Justin, the new director of hospitality operations, hovering with an uncertain look. "Apologies for interrupting, Mrs. Monroe, but he's here, asking for you." My stomach clenched instinctively. I already knew who the he in question was. Taking a steadying breath, I nodded for Justin to send him out. No more than a minute later, the terrace doors parted, revealing a shrunken, haggard figure that had once been Elliot Monroe. His expensive suit hung loosely on his diminished frame, his eyes downcast and swallowed by deep hollows. To put it plainly, he looked utterly, irrevocably broken. "Elliot," I greeted with cool detachment, nodding to Jenna and Alex. To their credit, they restrained themselves from any outbursts, simply watching on in stone-faced silence. "Harper, he began, words failing him as his mouth worked soundlessly. With visible effort, he met my gaze, shame and regret etched into the weathered lines of his face. "I just wanted to see the spectacular woman you've become with my own eyes. The strength, the success. You've cemented an enduring legacy while I squandered my own." His laugh was a dejected, hollow rasp. "I gambled away the love of my life, my family, in pursuit of cheap vices and ego strokes. A bigger fool has never walked this earth." My first instinct was to rebuff his pathetic wallowing, to dismiss him as easily as swatting a fly, but some deeper pang of crushed hopes gave me pause. Maybe in another life, another reality where he made different choices, things could have turned out so differently for us. But that path was forever closed to him now, his misery entirely self-wrought. "You're right about one thing," I said after a loaded pause. "This life, this empire, is mine now. One I built from the ashes of the world you burnt to the ground." Elliot staggered back slightly, absorbing the weight of my condemnation. "But I won't have you polluting it with your boorishness any longer," I continued, mustering every fiber of dignity. "Tonight, I'm surrounded by the people who matter most. My loyal family, my driven team, my esteemed guests. You've been excised from this existence entirely." I pierced him with a final, unwavering stare. "Now, get off my property before I have security remove you." Without another word, the shell of the man who had once been my husband turned and shambled away in disgrace. A profound sense of closure blossomed within me as I watched him disappear into the gloaming. At long last, I had severed the final tether binding me to my anguished past. Ahead lay an open field of possibility, and a hard-won second chance to cultivate the life I deserved. A new chapter was finally beginning.
"Mom, hey Mom, wake up." I was suddenly shaken awake, my eyes barely open to see my daughter's anxious face looming in my blurry vision. Slowly, I sat up and asked her, "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" "No, Mom, please. We need to run away from Dad now, hurry." With that single word, my groggy mind snapped to alertness. What followed was a shocking revelation from my daughter that left me dumbfounded. My name is Sarah. I'm a 35-year-old ordinary woman who works while raising my 7-year-old daughter, Emily. Our precious gem is not only adorable, but a bit unusual, or rather, has some mysterious aspects. Mom, you're forgetting your umbrella. Despite the weather forecast for the day being partly sunny with clouds, I was stopped by my daughter as I was about to leave the house. "It's fine. There's only a 10% chance of rain today." "But Mom, you're going to get soaked. I saw it in a dream. Please take an umbrella with you." Reluctantly, I took the umbrella she handed me and headed to work. Lo and behold, I encountered a sudden downpour just before I was about to return home. I was surprised and came home drenched, only to be proudly greeted by my daughter, whose umbrella was also wet on the stand. "Welcome home, Mom. See, it happened just like I said." Emily has had this slight mysterious power since she was very young, accurately predicting the weather and dinner menus. It might be an exaggeration to call it a precognitive ability, but it's unusual. She sometimes feels out of place because of this, especially when playing with friends, but she doesn't seem to mind. Above all, we, her family, have accepted this as part of her uniqueness, and she's otherwise a perfectly normal, adorable girl. What concerns me more is my husband, Mike, who is the same age as me. We met through a marriage agency. Back then, I was a hard-working career woman, successful but inexperienced with relationships. Urged by my impatient parents, I registered with the agency. It might be odd for a wife to say, but Mike was even more handsome back then and instantly charmed me. Moreover, he was a feminist, and I instantly fell in love. Our relationship quickly progressed with marriage in mind. My husband and I have been married for 10 years this year. He always comes home late these days. Emily is only 7 years old, and she still requires a lot of care. Juggling her care, household chores, and work without Mike's help has been overwhelming. Everything costs money these days, and we need to save as much as we can for Emily's sake. You never know what might happen, so I'm working hard. That's what he said when I asked him about it. I can't argue with him when he says it's for Emily's sake. I've been overwhelmed with work, household chores, and solo parenting. Then one day, Mike came home early, looking extremely tense. Sensing the mood, I sent Emily away before asking, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "I want to quit my job," he said. It was completely unexpected. After putting Emily to bed, we talked, and it turned out he'd been struggling with workplace relationships and no longer found his job fulfilling, making it a pain to go to work. Don't blame me, I just can't take it anymore. Once things settle down, I'll find another job right away. Until then, I'll take care of everything at home, he explained. I didn't want him to quit, but forcing him could lead to worse outcomes. Reluctantly, I agreed to his request. Before long, I got serious about my job, and my husband became a stay-at-home dad. His way of doing household chores and cooking was, to put it mildly, a bit sloppy compared to when I did them. What particularly bothered me was the meals. I came home around 9 o'clock at night when my daughter went to bed and ate my husband's homemade food. But there was a lot of fried food, and the seasoning was surprisingly strong, so I always needed water. The first time I ate it, I couldn't help but confront him. "What is this? You didn't feed the same thing to our daughter, did you?" No, I made sure to prepare something with lighter flavors for the kid, and I kept the portions appropriate. I thought you'd appreciate something with a bit more flavor after a long day. Too much fried food, not enough vegetables, and the soup barely tastes like anything. I'd be fine with lighter seasoning for kids, and I wish you'd paid more attention to balancing the meals, I complained. Despite my repeated comments, the seasoning and menu hardly changed. If I tried to leave anything uneaten, he'd say, "I'll save it for our daughter to eat tomorrow." That's a joke. I'd rather eat it myself than let our daughter have it. Reluctantly, I finished my meal, and as an apology, he started offering dessert after dinner. He also began preparing a nightly drink and snack, calling it a nightcap, thinking it would please me. I hadn't been much of a drinker or late-night snacker before, but I couldn't outright reject his kindness. I appreciated his efforts in cooking and his attempts at being a good house husband, so I generally turned a blind eye, enjoying the break from household chores. About 6 months into my role as the primary breadwinner, I finally had a day off with absolutely no plans. However, I felt off from the morning and lay down feeling foggy. Lately, I've been feeling lethargic without any fever and suffering from headaches. I fall asleep right after eating. Maybe I've been overdoing it at work. Luckily, my husband took our daughter out to a nearby large shopping mall, promising to contact me if anything came up. Grateful for his thoughtfulness, allowing me some much-needed rest, I was dozing off. "I'm back." I woke up to the sound of the front door and my husband's voice. I realized it was already evening. I had slept through the day without having lunch since before noon. "Welcome back. Sorry, honey, I couldn't play with you today. Did you have fun?" I asked our daughter, holding a palm-sized character mascot. She must have gotten while out. But she nodded quietly, looking down, unlike her usual self. I tilted my head, puzzled by her unusual behavior. "What's wrong? Did something happen? Maybe she's just tired from walking around all day. You should take a shower and rest early, okay?" My husband gently placed his hand on our daughter's shoulder, and she nodded slightly before heading to her room. When she was out of sight, I quietly asked my husband, "Hey, she seemed a bit off. Did you scold her or something?" "No, I didn't do anything. I think she's just tired. Anyway, about dinner." I tensed up at his words. I was frankly fed up with his cooking. "You know I'll cook tonight. I had a restful day and feel energized." "Oh, okay. Then I'll prepare the nightcap. I even bought dessert as usual," he smiled, lifting a bag that clearly had the logo of a famous cream puff shop. "Let's make tonight's meal low-calorie and nutritious." Later, we had dinner together and decided to sleep together for the first time. Though she smiled when it was just the two of us, I could tell she was anxious and wanted to spend as much time together as possible. "Mom, I have something to say." In the privacy of our bedroom, wrapped in blankets, my daughter whispered in a voice so faint I almost missed it. What is it?" "Please don't drink any alcohol tonight," she said. What could this be? Another instance of her slight precognitive ability? Nodding in response to my daughter's serious gaze, she closed her eyes, seemingly reassured. So before my husband could prepare our nightcap, I went to bed and decided to sleep early. Surely he wouldn't go as far as to wake me up for a drink. If he tries to wake me, I'll just pretend to be asleep. With that thought in mind, I closed my eyes. "Mum, hey Mum, wake up." I was suddenly shaken awake, my eyes barely opened to see my daughter's anxious face looming in my blurry vision. I realized I had actually fallen asleep, my vision blurry as my daughter's anxious face came into view. Checking the bedside clock, I saw it was 2 a.m., and I noticed my husband, who should have been sleeping next to me, was absent. Maybe he went to the bathroom. Slowly sitting up, I asked her, "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" "No, Mom, please. We need to run away from Dad now, hurry." That single word snapped me out of my grogginess. What did she just say? I asked her quietly, still in shock. Why? Why would you say that? This is our chance while Dad's not here. Because if we don't, something bad's going to happen to you, Mom, like getting sick or an accident, she explained urgently. What do you mean? I stared dumbfounded. My daughter, unable to hold back any longer, started to cry. Holding her in my lap and gently stroking her trembling back, she gradually calmed down and began to speak. According to her, while returning from the restroom at the mall, she overheard her dad on the phone. Having always been told not to interrupt when someone is on the phone, she approached quietly. Dad was saying, "Just a little longer, and she'll be gone," planning to make it look like an accident or illness. "Once that's done, we can be together with the insurance money." "Who was he talking to?" I asked, shaken. "I don't know. At first, I thought it was you, Mom, but it wasn't because Dad. He was saying bad things about you, and he said, 'I love you' to the person." My daughter was sobbing. If this was true, my husband was planning to send me to my demise. Besides, my husband is having an affair, my daughter continued. He said, "I love you" to someone, not Mom, she added. I was so shocked. I accidentally called out to Dad. Then Dad immediately ended the call and asked, "How long have you been there?" When I said, "Just now," he smiled and said, "Let's keep this our little secret from Mom. If you don't tell, you'll get a new kind and sweet mom." Tears and snot streamed down her face as she clung to me. "But I want you. I don't need another mom. I love you so much," she wailed, clinging to me. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of guilt for putting her through this and anger towards my husband. My daughter had braved her fears to protect me from her own father. How scared she must have been, how much courage she must have needed. Afterwards, holding my daughter, we went downstairs to the entrance. The moment I noticed my husband's favorite shoes were missing, any slight trust I had in him vanished alongside my daughter's words. According to her, this wasn't the first time he had left in the middle of the night. She had seen him leave several times when going to the bathroom. How had I never noticed before, even in deep sleep? If my daughter rarely wakes up at night and had seen him leave multiple times, it must have been frequent. My daughter was gripping the hem of my dress tightly. Her actions made me realize there was no time to doubt my husband. That's right. This is not the time for that. I need to respond to my daughter's courage, I thought. Perhaps because I hadn't drunk any alcohol, I felt more alert and clear-headed than usual. Looking into my daughter's eyes, I said, "Emily, if we run away from Dad now, we might never see him again. Will you still come with me?" "Yes, I'm scared of Dad. I want to be with you, Mom," she replied, her voice filled with determination. "I want to stay with you forever," she said. "All right, I made up my mind." Fortunately, my daughter was in the middle of her summer vacation. I told her to pack what she needed, and I quickly packed our bags as well. Then I was stunned as I checked the contents of the drawer where I kept our valuables. Opening another drawer that I rarely opened, my suspicion was confirmed. A surge of anger rose within me, but for now, leaving was the priority. We hurriedly left the house before dawn and decided to seek refuge at my parents' house. My parents were surprised to see us arrive so early in the morning, but they kindly welcomed us. After showing them what I found just before leaving and explaining what my daughter had told me, after the day had fully dawned, I sent a casual message. "Mom got hurt. I'm taking my daughter to help out for about a month or so. Please take care of the house while we're gone. Got it? Leave everything here to me." He was surprisingly calm about his daughter and wife disappearing overnight. Clearly, he must be smirking, thinking he can now do as he pleases alone. I'll lay low for now, but I won't let this go for my daughter's sake. As soon as we arrived at my parents' house, my daughter, still with tear stains on her cheeks, fell asleep. Looking at her sleeping face, I made a certain phone call. About a month after taking refuge at my parents' house, I decided to return home, leaving my daughter with my mom. Entering the living room after unlocking the door, my smartphone in my chest pocket, my husband, who had been holding his head in front of his smartphone, gave me a forced smile, as if nothing had happened. "Oh, welcome back. Don't just come back suddenly like that. You surprised me. How about I make you a nice iced coffee with lots of milk and sugar?" If it were the old me, I might have been deceived, but not today. I don't need it. Instead, I want you to write this. I confronted my husband, who was about to head to the kitchen, with divorce papers. He sighed deeply after glancing at them. "Divorce, huh? Well, if that's what you really want, I'll agree." His reaction was expected, but it infuriated me. He casually accepted it with a smile. "I'll agree to the divorce since you're the one asking for it. But you'll meet my demands for the settlement, right?" "What are you talking about? You're the one who'll be paying." My husband looked puzzled. He shook his head unwillingly, with a forced smile. "Come on, I've been supporting you in my way, and now you're handing me divorce papers unilaterally? A good husband, the kind that skips work for affairs and plans to put his wife in danger. What are you talking about?" I couldn't help but snort at his dumbfounded face. I pulled out a small bottle filled with pills from a drawer I hardly use and showed it to him. The label read, "For stubborn insomnia, 1 pill for a good night's sleep." That's it. I bought it because I couldn't sleep well. It's obvious if you look at it. The amount hasn't decreased since I left. I'd opened and took pictures of everything before I left. Want me to compare? Don't talk nonsense. Besides, where's the proof that I gave those to you? "Everything you've been doing with your mistress. I know all about it," I said, returning to my seat with the bottle in hand. Pulling an envelope from my bag and spilling its contents, my husband froze in shock. No wonder those were printouts of messages he had sent to his mistress. It says things like, "I'm skipping work to see you. Wait for me. I quit my job so we can talk more. Love you. I've got something that'll make sure she won't wake up. I can visit you during that. Think we can be together soon. Wait for me, my princess." He sent this kind of message. Every lie about working late and his plans to make my demise look like an accident or illness were detailed. Thinking back, the meals he prepared for me were high in salt, fat, and even sugary desserts. It's no wonder my health declined. Plus, he probably tampered with my drinks while I took a shower. I didn't drink often, so I didn't notice. But when I drank the same thing at my parents' house, The difference in taste was shocking and confirmed my suspicions. I started feeling unusually tired after beginning to eat your meals. I never felt refreshed despite falling asleep quickly. No wonder, with alcohol and these pills mixing, them is the worst. Imagine what could have happened, I said, watching as my husband's face turned pale and his eyes darted around. That's how come you have this stuff. Don't tell me you snooped through my phone. That's a violation of privacy, he accused. No, I got it from her, your mistress, I said, flipping over a second envelope to show him. His face went white. No wonder. The scattered photos showed him getting cozy with a young woman right after returning to my parents' house, believing my daughter's words. Listen up, folks. I need to share something that came to light recently about my wife, Sherry. It turns out she was involved in a relationship with a younger man. I've got the evidence right here, and I want you all to take a look. These pictures were taken during a family gathering, and what unfolded next was quite unexpected. During our annual family get-together, my husband, Neil, abruptly stood up and declared to everyone that I was having an affair. He distributed the photos to 15 relatives, including in-laws. As everyone examined the pictures, confusion spread across their faces. Some questioned Neil, demanding an explanation. "What's this all about, Neil?" they asked. Sure, the photos showed Sherry with a young man in a suit, but it wasn't immediately clear what was going on. Neil persisted, pointing out that the suit was an expensive luxury brand, insinuating that Sherry had been secretly meeting with this well-dressed guy. To add fuel to the fire, he presented another photo featuring a different man than the one in the suit. My father-in-law and mother-in-law, standing together, were visibly shocked. My mother-in-law, in disbelief, questioned Sherry about the truth. Sherry admitted to meeting these two men without informing Neil, expressing regret for not being forthright. In response, Neil seemed disappointed but took pride in his perceived victory. He emphasized Sherry's admission, claiming, "Did you hear what she just said? She said she could never tell me. Of course, she can't tell me that she was a married woman seducing two young men." A heavy silence descended upon the room as Neil declared his separation from Sherry. The atmosphere grew cold, and tension filled the air. Amidst the solemnity, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "What are you saying?" I exclaimed, unable to contain my disbelief. I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I couldn't believe how foolish I had been. My words didn't just elicit a reaction from my husband. They resonated with all our relatives gathered there. It wasn't surprising that those suspected of cheating on my husband found my situation amusing. Their laughter seemed to pierce through the icy tension in the room, fueled by anger and disbelief. My father-in-law, however, broke the silence and addressed me sternly. "Sherry, what are you thinking, laughing in a situation like this? Such an attitude, while bowing down, is unforgivable." I felt compelled to apologize, but I couldn't deny the humor in the situation. "I'm sorry, sir, but it truly was amusing. I couldn't help it. I was merely conversing with these two men," I explained, rising to my feet, joined by my husband. Taking a deep breath, I continued, revealing the real reason for my secrecy. I couldn't tell Neil because I was investigating his affair with them. My revelation left the room in stunned silence once more, the atmosphere heavy with tension. I admitted to meeting these men, but I vehemently denied any infidelity on my part. It was time to address the situation head-on and end my relationship with Neil. But as soon as I made my decision known, my husband lunged at me, incredulous at my explanation. "You were investigating my affair. What kind of excuse is that? No one here would believe such a story. Come clean, admit you're cheating, and apologize to all of us." His accusations felt like a slap in the face, his disbelief palpable. But I refused to back down. It's not a ludicrous excuse. Who's kidding whom here? Lying about my fidelity? Anyone can see through that. I retorted, my resolve unwavering. My in-laws, bewildered by my newfound assertiveness, pressed for clarity. Sherry, what did you mean about Neil's affair? I can't make sense of any of this. Please explain, they implored, seeking understanding in the midst of chaos. I took a moment to gather my thoughts before responding. I'm just like him, I admitted, turning to address my stepfather and stepmother. I was planning to discuss this with you both later when we have more time. I must apologize for the sudden twist in events. Allow me to clarify the situation step by step. The man in the suit I was meeting with happens to be a lawyer. I sought his advice regarding my husband's affair. As soon as I mentioned the word lawyer, my in-laws appeared even more perplexed. To shed light on the matter, I picked up one of the photos my husband had distributed and directed their attention to the lawyer's badge on his suit, though it was barely visible in the picture. Approximately 6 months ago, Neil underwent a noticeable transformation. He had never been particularly concerned about his appearance, but suddenly he began purchasing high-end products without informing me. Earlier, he remarked that the suit in question belonged to a very expensive luxury brand. It seemed that he had picked up this habit during his newfound attention to personal grooming. As I explained, my in-laws and relatives listened in silence, but my husband's face turned red with immediate denial. He questioned my accusations, asking what was wrong with being well-dressed. He assumed I was accusing him of infidelity solely based on his appearance, dismissing it as an improbable excuse. I clarified that his attire was not the sole reason for my suspicion. I had confronted the issue directly by speaking with the woman he was allegedly involved with. Astonishingly, her husband had approached me first, initiating the conversation. Turning to my in-laws, I pointed out the photo my husband had given to my father-in-law, revealing the other man in the suit as the spouse of Neil's supposed lover. Neil, still in disbelief, exclaimed, "Are you being serious? Is this some kind of coincidence? It's hard for me to believe." I couldn't believe it myself when Jimmy, a close friend of mine and the husband of the woman my husband was cheating with, sought my advice. It was a startling revelation. For the past 6 months, Jimmy suspected his wife of infidelity and confided in me about it. In collaboration with Jimmy, we decided to hire a private investigator to delve into the matter. Unexpectedly, Neil's name emerged during the investigation, along with evidence of Jimmy's wife's affair. She had already confessed to cheating on Jimmy. What astonished me further was the discovery that Neil had falsely claimed to be single, leaving Jimmy's wife shocked to learn of my existence. Regardless, the affair itself was unforgivable. Reflecting on the events, I retrieved an envelope from my bag containing crucial evidence. Distributing it to my in-laws and relatives, I revealed the truth. Neil had accused me of infidelity when in fact, he was the one engaged in an affair. My laughter earlier wasn't out of amusement, but rather disbelief at Neil's audacity and stupidity. He assumed I was oblivious to his deceit, but his actions spoke volumes. As I spoke, a mixture of anger and disappointment resonated in the room. My in-laws and relatives grasped the gravity of the situation. Neil's behavior wasn't just deceitful, it was reprehensible. The evidence of his affair had been meticulously gathered, and his cheating partner had confessed. Now, it was Neil who owed our relatives an apology. The tables had turned drastically. However, Neil's response took an unexpected turn. I must admit, I was the one involved in an affair, but my husband's explanation shifted the blame entirely onto me, claiming it was Sherry's fault. According to him, since we had no children due to Sherry's infertility, she was essentially useless, unable to fulfill the societal expectation of bearing children and taking care of household chores. This justification left the faces of my parents-in-law and other relatives even more somber. It's true that we had been married for about 3 years without being able to conceive, prompting me to undergo fertility treatment. I had asked my husband to join me in the process, but he was uncooperative, placing the blame squarely on me. He insisted on having children but was unwilling to undergo the necessary steps, providing only the specimen and leaving the rest to me. My father-in-law couldn't contain his frustration at my husband's selfishness and raised his voice, challenging the notion of Sherry being deemed useless. He questioned the idea of discarding her like a tool when she wasn't needed, highlighting how Sherry's support in our marriage had ensured an uninterrupted life. Father-in-law emphasized that household chores and bearing children were not to be taken for granted. The tension among the in-laws intensified, and my nerves were on edge. Some relatives, including housewives like me, were deeply offended by my husband's assertion that it was common sense for women to handle housework and bear children. It was not just a personal insult, but a broader affront to housewives and individuals facing infertility worldwide. My husband's narrow perspective became apparent. He only considered what was directly in front of him, oblivious to the complexities faced by others. In this tense atmosphere, my father-in-law expressed his anger, making it clear that my husband's mindset was flawed and superficial. Despite the tension, my husband astonishingly uttered the impossible words, treating Sherry as if she were a tool and deeming her even less valuable due to infertility. I've reconsidered, and I want to thank Sherry. You're right, Dad. I want to be happy, and having a child is essential for that. Do you understand? My father-in-law, veins almost bursting from his intense emotions, leaned in close to my husband, who is my mother-in-law, and had to step in to intervene. Neil, I know you want a child, but cheating on Sherry and deceiving us was not the way to go about it. Why did you accuse her of cheating on you? Is it just to avoid paying alimony? Pretending she cheated allows you to get a divorce and receive alimony. That's why I did it. Well, even if I fail, I can always pay for it to resolve everything. My mother-in-law, almost losing herself, tried to confront him physically, but my father-in-law stopped her, urging her to calm down. He reasoned, beating up a guy like this only hurts you. He doesn't even deserve your punch, but he's our son, and we can't just keep quiet about it. You're older, Mom, you need to calm down. I thought that was a good way to go about it, but I can't help it. Sherry and I are getting a divorce soon, and I'm moving out of the house. Sherry, I'll pay you alimony too, so don't complain, okay? And don't come crying back to me about how much you miss me. Whatever, do what you want. You're the one who should better not come crying back to me after our divorce. I'm not going to cry for you, you idiot. Well, this will be the last time, so I'll just hear you say goodbye, Sherry. What do you have to say? All the relatives were already in a state of anger, beyond furious at him, who was swearing to the very end. In the midst of this, I smiled at him and gave him a few words. You said you'd throw me away because I'm infertile. But that's a funny thing to say because I'm not infertile. You are. What? What'd you just say? I'm not infertile, and now you're throwing me away. I don't care anymore, though. You've not only deceived me, but also your mom and dad and all your relatives. You were way out of line as a person, and I don't even want to breathe the same air with you anymore. Hey, Sherry, answer my question. What did you just say? That I'm infertile? My husband, who had been unbothered so far, was finally upset. I'm not bluffing. It was you who was infertile, not me. When I asked for fertility treatment, you blamed me and were uncooperative. You just gave me the specimen and left the rest to me. And that's when I found out that you were infertile. Screw you. You're lying, aren't you? You're lying just to get me in trouble, aren't you? I don't believe you. I don't need your belief anymore. It doesn't matter now that I know the truth about you. My husband desperately interrogated me. My in-laws and other relatives were unaware of his infertility, and it must have been surprising for them. However, the revelation no longer held significance. The consensus among the relatives was clear: my husband and I should get a divorce. It may not matter to you, but it matters to me, Sherry. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted kids, didn't you know? He questioned. I explained that I had tried to tell him, but he wouldn't listen. Instead, I sought advice from my friend Jimmy, only to discover that Jimmy's wife was having an affair with my husband. I'm never going to be able to have kids, maybe with fertility treatments, maybe not. Well, for someone like you who doesn't value your family, I don't think you'll be able to continue your fertility treatments. Infertility treatment is hard work, and with the support of your family, you might have been able to continue. But you no longer have anyone to rely on, so why don't you just give up? I declared. He looked to his in-laws and relatives for support. But after all the inhumane things he had said and done, no one answered him. In the end, I divorced my husband, and Jimmy divorced his wife. We both filed for alimony, and Jim's wife blamed Neil for her divorce, causing him constant trouble. Despite his ongoing pursuit of having kids through fertility treatments, he struggled to find a marriage partner due to the repercussions of his actions. A few years later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. After my divorce, I remarried, even though I never thought it would happen. My current husband, who has also experienced divorce, expressed his desire to start a new life with me. We support each other, and my daughter is growing up in a happy environment. However, I don't take it for granted. I still believe.
I lay on the cold kitchen floor, holding my side where I felt sharp pain spreading through my body. It felt like a knife was twisting inside me. My 7-year-old daughter, Lily, stood nearby, her small face showing how scared she was. "Mommy, are you okay?" Lily's voice shook, barely louder than a whisper. I tried to sound calm despite the pain. "I'll be fine, honey, just a bad stomach ache," I lied, trying to hide how serious it was. Footsteps echoed through the hallway as my husband David appeared in the doorway. His face showed annoyance instead of concern. He was ready for his trip, holding his suitcase. "What's going on, Evelyn? Why are you on the floor?" David asked, sounding annoyed. "I think it's appendicitis, David. It's really bad. We need to go to the hospital," I managed to say, each word hurting me. He scoffed. "Appendicitis? You're probably overreacting. It's likely just indigestion." "But David, I really think..." My words were cut off by a sharp pain, making me wince. David checked his watch, clearly impatient. "I can't miss this trip with Rachel. Just call a taxi or something." I couldn't believe it. "David, I can't even move. Lily's here. I need you," I begged, desperation in my voice. He shook his head, not caring. "I'm sure it's nothing. Call if it gets worse." And with that, he left, his suitcase trailing behind him. I was left alone in pain with Lily. Lily's small hands found mine, her tears matching my own. "Mommy, don't be sick. You have to be okay." I gathered what little strength I had and pulled Lily close. "I'm here, darling. Mommy's here." With David gone, I knew I had to act. With shaking hands, I grabbed my phone and called the only person I knew I could count on, my brother Michael. The phone rang, its sound piercing the quiet kitchen. "Hello," Michael's voice came through, a beacon of hope. "Michael, it's Evelyn. I need help. I think it's appendicitis. I can't move and Lily is scared," I managed to say, each word a struggle. There was a brief silence, then Michael's voice, calm and steady. "I'm on my way. Hold tight, Evelyn. I'll be there soon." Leaning against the cold tile floor, I closed my eyes, trying to endure the pain. Lily nestled close to me, a small comfort in the midst of turmoil. In that moment, a determination grew inside me. David's abandonment during my crisis wouldn't be forgotten. It was a deep hurt, a betrayal that marked a turning point. As I waited for Michael, one thing became clear: things would change. In the hospital bed later, surrounded by sterile walls and beeping machines, a sense of calm settled in. The surgery for my appendicitis went well, but David's emotional absence still stung. I had called my parents to care for Lily while I recovered, their voices filled with concern and unspoken questions about David's whereabouts. 3 days later, I was back home, the physical pain now a dull reminder of the recent ordeal. Lily greeted me eagerly, her face lighting up at my return. "Mommy, you're back. Are you all better now?" Her innocent question warmed my heart. "I'm getting there, sweetie," I replied, hugging her tightly, grateful for her presence. The peace of our reunion was shattered the next day by the slam of the front door. David and his sister Rachel burst in, their voices filled with frustration. "Why didn't you pick us up yesterday? We had to spend extra on a taxi and train fares. David's accusatory voice rang out as he entered the living room. I felt a surge of anger at his boldness. "Welcome back. Must have been quite a journey," I said coldly, locking eyes with him. David halted, taken aback by my icy reception. Even Rachel seemed surprised by the tension. "What's with the attitude, Evelyn?" David demanded. I couldn't hold back anymore. "While you were enjoying your trip, I was in a hospital," I said, my voice steady but simmering with anger. "And you, Rachel, always demanding David's time without considering his family." Rachel flushed and David appeared bewildered. "What are you talking about? You were fine, right?" he replied, sounding dismissive. "It's not just about being okay, David. It's about being there when your family needs you," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. Before David could respond, the living room door swung open, revealing Michael, our parents, and David's parents, 14 eyes, filled with varying degrees of anger and disappointment, fixed on David and Rachel. "Why is everyone here?" David's voice faltered, his confidence waning under their collective glare. Taking a deep breath, I channeled my pain and betrayal into words. "David, you left Lily and me alone when we needed you the most. I had to go to the hospital, and you weren't there. I've told everything to our families." David seemed to shrink under the weight of my words, his usual bravado absent. His eyes darted around, searching for support but finding none. "It's not just about this one incident, David. It's about all the times you've prioritized Rachel over your own family," my brother Michael added, his disappointment evident in his voice. Rachel, typically confident, appeared uneasy, shifting her gaze between the floor and the upset faces around her. David attempted to defend himself, offering excuses and justifications. The confrontation grew heated, tension thick in the air. But for me, it marked a turning point. I realized I couldn't continue living in the shadow of David's neglect. It was time for change, time to assert myself and protect Lily. The meeting concluded without resolution, but the message was clear. I had the support of both our families, and David's careless facade had been shattered. As they departed, David's parents glanced at me with sympathy, silently acknowledging their son's shortcomings. That night, as I lay in bed, the events of the day replayed in my mind. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, disappointment, but also a newfound strength. David had revealed his true self, and I knew it was time for me to take charge of my life. The days following the confrontation were tense with unspoken words. David tried to act as if nothing had changed, but the atmosphere between us was heavy. I spent that time reflecting, realizing the depth of my discontent and the necessity for change. The decision I reached wasn't easy, but it felt crucial, like a breath of fresh air after being stifled for so long. One evening, while David casually flipped through TV channels on the couch, I approached him with a folder in hand. My heart raced, but my determination held firm. "David, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady. He glanced up, a hint of annoyance crossing his face. "What now, Evelyn?" I took a deep breath and handed him the folder. "I want a divorce." David stared at me, disbelief and mockery flashing across his expression. "Divorce? That's absurd, Evelyn. You're blowing things out of proportion." I shook my head, feeling a surge of empowerment. "It's not an exaggeration. I've thought long and hard about this. You've consistently prioritized Rachel over me and Lily. I can't continue like this." David sneered. "You think you can manage alone? Don't be naive, Evelyn." His words were meant to hurt, but I stood firm. "I'm not naive, David. I understand what this means, but I'd rather face uncertainty than continue feeling invisible in my own marriage." He laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Good luck, Evelyn. You'll regret this once you realize how tough it is out there." I felt my anger rise, but I kept my composure. "I won't. This is my decision, and I'm sticking to it." For a moment, David seemed like he might argue further, but then he shrugged, a smug smirk on his face. "Fine, have it your way. But remember, I warned you." As he turned back to the TV, dismissing me once again, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. There was fear, certainly, but also a powerful sense of liberation. I was finally taking charge of my life, stepping out of the shadows. The next day, I started the legal process for divorce. It was overwhelming with all the paperwork and legal steps, but I was determined. My parents and Michael were supportive, offering help and encouragement. During this time, David's true nature became clearer. He was dismissive and uncooperative, trying to intimidate me into giving up. But I stood my ground, strengthened by my family's support and my growing sense of strength. As time went on, David's facade began to crack. The charming, confident man I married revealed himself to be selfish and manipulative, his true self exposed. The divorce proceedings were challenging, but I faced them bravely, each forward step a testament to my newfound determination. I was no longer the woman who lay on the kitchen floor, ignored and in pain. I was reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my happiness. The divorce process was exhausting, marked by David's constant attempts to undermine and demean me. In our meetings, he would sneer and make hurtful remarks about my parenting and my future without him. But instead of letting his words defeat me, they fueled my determination to break free from his toxic influence. "Enjoy your struggles, Evelyn," David taunted in one of our final meetings. "You'll soon see how good you had it with me." His arrogance infuriated me, but I remained composed. I'd rather face challenges every day than spend another moment with someone who has so little regard for his family, I replied firmly. David's smug demeanor briefly faltered, replaced by a flicker of anger. He quickly masked it with a scoff, but I could sense my words had struck a nerve. The day the divorce was finalized brought a strange mix of relief and nervousness. I was finally free from David, yet the road ahead seemed daunting. However, as I walked out of the courthouse, a wave of liberation washed over me. In the weeks following our divorce, David's life began to unravel. His neglectful behavior and our separation became the gossip of his workplace. Colleagues who had once admired him now looked at him with pity and disdain. His charming facade had crumbled, exposing the pettiness and selfishness beneath. News of our divorce spread throughout our community, largely due to my cousin, who was well connected in our neighborhood. David, who had always cared deeply about his image and reputation, found himself the subject of hushed conversations and judgmental stares. Rachel also faced criticism. Her role in our marital problems was now public knowledge, and friends and neighbors began to regard her with suspicion and disapproval. The bond she had with David, once unbreakable in her eyes, now seemed strained and uneasy. One evening, while picking up Lily from school, I overheard a heated argument between David and Rachel outside their house. Their voices dripped with blame and resentment. "It's your fault we're in this mess, Rachel," David yelled, his frustration palpable. "How dare you blame me? You're the one who couldn't hold your family together." Rachel shot back, her voice filled with anger. Their argument was a stark contrast to the united front they once presented. The discord sowed by their actions had finally come to fruition, and now they were facing the consequences. As I walked away with Lily, I felt a sense of vindication. David and Rachel were now grappling with the results of their selfish choices. It was a tough lesson, but one they had brought upon themselves. That night, as Lily slept peacefully in her room, I sat by the window reflecting on the past few months. The journey had been challenging, but it had brought me to a place of strength and self-respect. I had fought for my dignity and for Lily's future. Although the future was uncertain, I felt prepared to confront it with newfound confidence. In the aftermath of the divorce, life settled into a new rhythm, one that was quieter yet more fulfilling. The weight of my unhappy marriage had lifted, replaced by a newfound sense of independence. I began rebuilding my life step by step, with Lily by my side. My first priority was finding a job. The gap in my resume from years spent focusing on motherhood was a concern, but I was determined. After several interviews, I secured a position at a small accounting firm. The firm, led by a supportive woman who valued working mothers, offered a flexible and understanding environment. It was an ideal fit for me. Lily embraced the changes with the resilience that only children possess. She started kindergarten, making new friends and eagerly diving into learning. Her laughter and lively conversations filled our home with happiness, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere of the past. Yet despite these positive changes, reminders of my past with David lingered. One afternoon, while dropping Lily off at school, I overheard a group of parents whispering, "That's her, Evelyn. Her husband left her because he couldn't stand being around her anymore," one of them said. Their words stung, but I held my head high. The gossip and judgment were small prices to pay for the freedom and peace I now had. Meanwhile, David's life continued to unravel. His pride took a significant hit, and his once flawless reputation was now tarnished. I heard from mutual acquaintances that he had moved back in with his parents, a fact he tried to conceal but eventually became known. Rachel's situation wasn't any better. Her interference in our marriage had isolated her from many friends. The once close siblings were now barely on speaking terms, their relationship strained by blame and regret. As for me, I found solace in the unwavering support of my family. My brother Michael had moved closer to us, his presence a constant source of comfort. My parents showered Lily with love, their affection soothing the wounds of the past. One day, while savoring coffee in my kitchen, I reflected on the journey I had endured, the pain, the struggle, and ultimately, the liberation. It had all brought me to this moment of peace. I hadn't just survived. I had emerged stronger and more self-assured. The doorbell interrupted my thoughts. Opening it, I found David standing there, wearing a look of defeat. "Evelyn, I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone," he said, his apology, though belated, validating my decision. "Thank you, David," I replied gently, "but it's too late. I've moved on." As I closed the door on David and the life we once shared, a sense of closure washed over me. That chapter of my life had ended, and a new one was beginning. In this new chapter, I was the author of my own story, free to shape my future as I saw fit. Lily's voice called out from the living room, and a smile spread across my face. I walked towards her, eager to embrace the life that lay ahead, a life brimming with possibilities and hope.
I am Ava, and this is the tale of the challenges I faced in my relationship with my mother-in-law, Sophia. Despite living away from Sophia and my husband William's father, Benjamin, for years, distance couldn't shield us from Sophia's determination to disrupt my life. Sophia, with her somewhat old-fashioned beliefs, harbored a dislike for me that spanned years. When William secured a job near his parents, we found ourselves back in Sophia's sphere of influence. Dealing with Sophia wouldn't have been an issue for me, as I had learned to navigate toxic and controlling individuals through my own problematic relationship with my parents. Benjamin, my father-in-law, had always been supportive, making things easier for me. The real problem arose when Sophie gained access to my then 9-year-old daughter Luna. Luna, always affectionate and enjoying family time, only knew Benjamin and Sophia as her grandparents due to our no-contact relationship with my parents. Despite my past issues with Sophia, I set them aside for Luna's sake and allied with her to maintain a healthy relationship with her grandparents. William, valuing family deeply, made it impossible for me to cut off Sophia sooner. While Benjamin and Sophia were generally affectionate towards Luna, a persistent issue lingered with Sophia. She consistently criticized Luna's diet, claiming that I wasn't feeding her properly. According to Sophia, Luna needed more nuts for protein, accusing me of removing essential nutrients from her meals. Repeatedly explaining Luna's nut allergy, even the smell triggering severe reactions, didn't sway Sophia. She insisted I was wrong, asserting that Luna needed exposure to overcome her allergies and accused me of being a bad mother. I half expected this from you, Sophia. We've consulted with a pediatrician, and Luna receives balanced meals. People won't die if they don't eat nuts, but Luna could face severe health complications if she consumes them, I explained. Despite my efforts and the doctor's advice, Sophia never accepted the logic. She firmly believed that exposure was the best way to eliminate allergies. Exhausted from trying to reason with her, I faced accusations of being a bad mother. Sophia even attempted to convince Luna to eat allergenic foods, but Luna, aware of the consequences, consistently refused, growing increasingly concerned about Sophia's actions. I decided to discuss my concerns with William. I expressed my worry about leaving Luna alone with Sophia, fearing that she might sneak allergens into Luna's food for exposure therapy. Don't be ridiculous, Ava. My mom may be old-fashioned, but she knows her limits. Besides, Dad is always there to intervene in her experiments. Luna loves spending time with her grandparents, and we can't just tell her to stop. William reassured me. But Sophia is not improving her attitude towards Luna's allergies. I am genuinely worried about Luna's safety every time she stays with her grandparents without me. We need to address this. I'm sick with worry, I insisted. Relax, Ava. There's no need to cut off my parents over something so trivial. Luna deserves the love of her grandparents. She's content with them. You know what? Since you're so concerned about Mom, I'll talk to her. I'm sure she'll listen to me. William assured me that he would communicate our concerns to Sophia. His words rang true, considering Luna genuinely loved her grandparents. I couldn't bring myself to tell Luna to stop seeing them. If she had expressed any desire not to see them, I would have respected her wishes. However, I hadn't realized that no one could stop Sophia, not even William, who had failed to change her ways. The turning point came at Luna's 11th birthday party. Benjamin and Sophia were invited, and they promised to attend. Sophia seemed overly excited, and my motherly instincts were on high alert, though I couldn't pinpoint why. Sophia and Benjamin were among the first guests to arrive, surprising me since Sophia usually wanted to spend as little time near me as possible. She handed Luna a large square box wrapped in birthday-themed paper, saying, "Happy birthday, dear Luna. Here's your gift. Grandma has got you the best gift ever." Luna expressed her gratitude, and Sophia added, "The gift is so big. What's in it, Grandpa?" "I don't know, Luna. Your grandma picked the gift, and she won't even tell me what she got you. We'll both find out when you open it. Open Grandma's gift and see what she got you. I'm sure you'll love it, my dear. I'll be your absolute favorite grandma. I can't wait to see what you gave me. I'm so excited. We can open all the gifts after cutting the cake. Luna, let all your friends come, and once we are done with the cake, you can go on to open the gifts." No. You need to let Luna open my gift before she cuts the cake. That's the entire reason why I came extra early, to give her my gift, Sophia insisted. While I grew suspicious of Sophia's behavior, Luna appeared visibly happy to receive a nice gift from her grandma. The large, heavy-looking present fueled Luna's excitement, and she eagerly anticipated opening it, allowing her to start opening her gifts when all her friends arrived. I yielded to Luna's insistence on opening Sophia's gift before the birthday cake, as Sophia had told her it needed to be done the correct way. I didn't want to make her sad on her birthday, so I allowed it. Little did I know what disaster would follow. On her birthday, Luna and her parents were betrayed by the one person they were supposed to trust. Sophia not only ruined Luna's birthday, but also turned everyone against her. As Luna opened her gift, she discovered a large cake inside with her name on it. Her joy lasted only a minute until she became unconscious. William and I rushed to our daughter, confused and terrified, noticing the swelling of her throat. In disbelief, I saw William rush to get an epinephrine while someone else called the police. Knowing who was responsible, I confronted Sophia, demanding, "What the hell did you give Luna? What's in that cake?" Sophia feigned innocence, saying, Nothing, Ava. It's just a normal cake. I don't understand what transpired. There must be some action on your part that led to Luna fainting. It appears evident that you have neglected to provide her with proper nutrition, despite my prior warnings about potential consequences. You seem to have ignored them. Please refrain from attempting to shift the blame onto me. Just moments ago, Luna was happy and in good spirits, and now she appears to be experiencing an allergic reaction. I implore you to disclose what you have done to cause this distress to Luna Sophia. I sincerely hope you did not tamper with the cake. I regret not keeping a closer watch on you when you promised to procure the best gift for Luna. Inform Ava of your actions and take responsibility. Look at Luna. She is turning blue. Ignoring Sophia's presence, I focused on Luna and rushed over with the epinephrine that I typically use for my child. Although the swelling subsided somewhat, Luna remained unconscious. It became evident that a hospital visit was the only viable option to ensure her complete recovery. The room was filled with palpable concern for Luna. Tears welled up in my eyes, and even William appeared on the verge of tears. Sophia, already in tears herself, seemed somewhat frightened. At that moment, I resolved to dissect the cake and discover its contents. What I uncovered left me utterly shocked to my core. I demanded an explanation from Sophia, questioning her sanity for giving my daughter a cake filled with nuts. I had explicitly warned her numerous times about Luna's nut allergy. "Sophia, what is wrong with you? You callously ignored my cautions and included nuts in the cake, jeopardizing Luna's well-being. How could you be so recklessly foolish? My only intention was to safeguard Luna, not to cause her harm." I detested the fact that Ava imposed such strict limitations on Luna's diet. While it's true that she might experience adverse reactions at times, gradual exposure could have been a solution. My frustration erupted when, in response to Ava's actions, I confronted her, exclaiming, "Are you out of your mind? My daughter is allergic to nuts, for God's sake. She could have died from this reaction. Who granted you the authority to unilaterally decide how to handle her allergies? Look at the mess you've caused. I am Luna's grandmother, and I have the right to care for my baby. I assure you she will recover in time. All of you are overreacting, attempting to frighten and punish me for nothing. I bet this is all part of Camilla's plan to tarnish my reputation. Listen to me, Sophia. If things go my way today, you will face severe consequences for your actions. But right now, ensuring my daughter's well-being is my top priority." As I finished expressing my concern, the ambulance arrived with paramedics. They attended to Luna and transported her to the hospital, with us accompanying her. The doctors at the hospital informed us that Luna would need time to regain consciousness and would have to stay at the hospital for a day or two. We were emotionally overwhelmed. I found solace in William's comforting arms after breaking down in the hospital. Once composed, I contacted Benjamin to update everyone that Luna was no longer in immediate danger. After hanging up the call, I turned to William and expressed my deep resentment, telling him, "William, I will never forgive Sophia for what happened today. Do you realize that she could have endangered our daughter's life?" William replied, "Ava, I've been contemplating the gravity of the situation. Trust me, it's beyond belief, something I wouldn't have accepted had I not witnessed it firsthand. My mother has transformed into someone so heartless that she's unrecognizable to me now. Sophia orchestrated all of this merely to prove that I am a negligent mother. She feigned concern for our daughter's happiness, but it never occurred to her that she was putting Luna in grave danger. Even after everything unfolded, she persisted in claiming that I had orchestrated the entire incident. Today has been an eye-opener for me, revealing the extent to which my mother is willing to go to tarnish your image. I can't express how deeply sorry I am for not realizing this sooner and for not taking decisive action to limit her presence in our lives. I feel a profound need to shield Luna from my mother's toxicity. I failed as a husband and an even worse father." The gravity of the situation started to dawn on William, while Benjamin, who had always been a reliable grandfather, was undoubtedly affected by Sophia's egregious actions. This time, they were determined not to let her escape the consequences easily. We have come to a pivotal moment where we can no longer turn a blind eye to Sophia's harmful influence. It is clear that her actions pose a significant threat to Luna's well-being, and we cannot allow her to continue wreaking havoc in our lives. Sophia will no longer have a place in our family. We are resolved to protect Luna from any further harm and ensure that she grows up in a healthy and nurturing environment. This may be a difficult path, but for the sake of our daughter's safety and happiness, it is a decision we are committed to enforcing," William declared. Following a profound discussion, my husband and I swiftly reached a decision while Luna was still in the hospital. It was time to return home. Benjamin, Sophia, and a few guests stayed behind seeking updates on the situation, presenting the opportune moment to address Sophia's transgressions. 4 hours had passed since the incident when we arrived home. In the living room, we found Benjamin scolding Sophia, who nonchalantly typed away on her phone. Beside them lay the untouched birthday cake that Luna never had the chance to cut. Despite the sight bringing tears to my eyes, I restrained my emotions. As soon as they noticed our presence, Benjamin and Sophia rushed towards us. "I just got an update," I said. "Luna is in good hands, and she'll recover soon, though she's still unconscious. The doctors are optimistic. Thank God, Luna is going to be all right." I was frantic with worry, but it seems there was nothing to be concerned about. It wasn't even a significant issue. Luna will be fine, and her immunity against nuts will improve in no time. Her allergies will become a thing of the past. I told you I know what's best. However, at that moment, William unleashed his anger on Sophia, berating her for everything. Benjamin joined in expressing his disapproval, and the guests, visibly shocked, stared at Sophia with disdain. I, too, was seething with anger. "I've had enough, Sophia," I declared. "We've given you multiple chances to prove yourself, even after your actions led to my daughter being hospitalized. You show no remorse. This is the final straw. We will never allow you near Luna or our family again. You are banned from this house." Sophia retorted, "You can't dictate where I go. Your son won't cut me off over nothing. I won't let you take away my granddaughter just because we disagree on parenting." "No, Mom," I responded firmly. "You will never come near me or my family again. Dad is welcome here anytime, but you are not. He's the only rational grandparent Luna has. He's made earnest efforts to protect Luna from harm. Today, you sent Luna to the hospital, insisting it was the right decision. I cannot allow someone so callous to be around my daughter." Sophia couldn't fathom her own son turning against her. She placed utmost trust in William to defend her, unaware that he was a reasonable man, not deluded like her. Surprisingly, even the guests began berating her. Sophia found herself cornered with nowhere to go. Not even Benjamin sided with her. In a fit of desperation, she screamed at us, blaming me for intentionally setting her up to humiliate her. "This is your fault, Ava. You've managed to turn everyone against me. I won't forgive you for this. You should be begging for our forgiveness. Your actions have tarnished your own name and taken you away from Luna. You'll never see her again. I'll sue you for grandparents' rights. I'll take you to court, and the judge will grant me visitation. Just wait and see. I won't need anyone in my corner." I responded firmly, "Good luck trying to get grandparents' rights when you're in jail. I bet the judge would find it amusing to have a felon ask for grandparents' rights after endangering her own granddaughter." Sophia protested. "What do you mean, Ava? Why would I go to jail? I haven't done anything wrong." "Haven't you? What you've done is a crime, Sophia. You can be arrested by the police for knowingly exposing a child to allergens. It's considered a form of poisoning. Perhaps you weren't aware, but William and I know. We've already called the police on you. Here they are. They're coming to arrest you." In denial, Sophia retorted, "No, you're lying. This can't be happening. You can't get me arrested for this." Sophia's panicked expression revealed her desperation as she pleaded with us to drop the charges. Tears streamed down her face, and she descended into hysterics. Just then, 2 officers entered and informed her that she was under arrest. Desperately, she clung to our hands, begging us not to send her to jail. William, unmoved, instructed the cops to take her away, while I gave Sophia a cold stare, signaling that her deceitful game had come to an end. In a last-ditch effort, she turned to Benjamin for help, imploring him to intervene. "Benjamin, do something, please. You can't just let your wife get arrested like this," she pleaded. Benjamin, however, stood firm, declaring, "When my wife has done something truly horrifying and shown no remorse for it, I will not protect her. For years, I've warned you to amend your ways, and you never listened. Today, you put my only granddaughter in danger. I was only trying to protect her, not realizing it would hurt her so badly. Please, Benjamin, I am your wife. You need to help me," Sophia begged. William, reinforcing his decision, stated, "Sophia, I've already kicked you out of my life. It's the right thing to do. In fact, that's what I intend to do as well. Tomorrow, I will talk to a divorce lawyer. I want to be done with this as soon as possible. There's no way I'm staying with a psycho like you. This time, I will protect my granddaughter and my kids from your presence," I declared. In a state of shock, Sophia pleaded desperately, "No, no, no, Benjamin, you can't do this to me. I'm your wife." Ignoring her pleas, Benjamin instructed the cops to take her away. Sophia continued crying and begging for help, bringing a tumultuous end to an event that had long concluded. A sense of tranquility settled within me as William, Benjamin, and that returned to the hospital after the departure of the remaining guests. The others, clearly upset with Sophia's actions, pledged to inform everyone about her reprehensible behavior. The following day, our little daughter Luna woke up showing considerable improvement. However, she displayed an intense fear of Sophia. Luna cried, imploring us to keep her away from her grandmother, recounting how Sophia had frequently tried to force her to consume allergens. Addressing Luna's fears, we assured her that her grandma would never hurt her again. We made a solemn promise that Sophia would no longer be a part of our lives, emphasizing Luna's love for her grandpa, who would continue to be a supportive presence. Luna, still traumatized by the recent events, expressed her aversion to Sophia. To assist Luna in processing her emotions, we enrolled her in sessions with a child therapist. Concurrently, William and I began couples therapy to enhance our communication as a family. The support of Benjamin played a crucial role in our collective healing, and we witnessed significant improvements, fostering a stronger bond among us. Meanwhile, Sophia's life took a swift downturn after the incident. Her actions had consequences, and the repercussions of her behavior became evident in the rapid decline of her circumstances. Once Sophia's own family discovered her reprehensible actions, they scolded her and promptly severed ties with her. Even her friends, repulsed by her behavior, distanced themselves from her. Faced with the consequences of her actions, Sophia found herself in a desperate situation, crying and pleading with everyone for bail money. Unsuccessful in garnering support, Benjamin filed for divorce the very next day, and Sophia was served with legal papers while still in jail. Sophia's descent into turmoil accelerated upon receiving the divorce papers in her holding cell. She unleashed a torrent of screams. In the following months, Benjamin successfully secured a straightforward divorce, capitalizing on the adult state laws, with the police report serving as a damning testimony. Simultaneously, our legal pursuit against Sophia unfolded. Although she was expected to compensate us for Luna's medical bills, her lack of resources led to a lengthy sentence as the judge ruled against her. Additionally, we obtained restraining orders to ensure her distance from our family. Confident that Sophia would not have the opportunity to approach us again, we remained vigilant. However, in the unlikely event that she attempts to breach the boundaries, she should be prepared to face the unwavering protection of Mama and Papa Bear, who are resolute in doing anything necessary to safeguard Luna.
Hi, I'm Ava. I want to tell you about my tricky relationship with my mother-in-law, Sophia. She always seemed to make things hard for me. Sophia had old-fashioned ideas and never really liked me. For a while, my husband William and I lived far from them, so Sophia couldn't bother us much. But when William got a job close to them, we had to deal with her more. I could handle Sophia's behavior because I grew up dealing with difficult people, like my own parents. Luckily, William's dad, Benjamin, was always nice to me. But the tough part was that Sophia spent time with my daughter, Luna, who was 9 at the time. Luna loved her grandparents, and they were the only ones she knew well. Since I didn't have contact with my own parents, even though Sophia and I had our issues, I put them aside for Luna's sake. I wanted Luna to have a good relationship with her grandparents. William also cared about family a lot, so I couldn't just cut Sophia out of our lives. Luna enjoyed spending time with her grandparents, but Sophia still caused problems sometimes. Sophia kept criticizing Luna's diet, saying I wasn't feeding her right. She thought Luna needed more nuts for protein, but Luna was allergic to nuts, and even their smell made her sick. I told Sophia this many times, but she wouldn't listen. She said Luna needed to eat nuts to get over her allergy and called me a bad mom. I knew you'd say this, Sophia. We talked to the doctor, and Luna's meals are balanced. Skipping nuts won't hurt anyone, but it could make Luna really sick, I told her. Even after explaining and listening to the doctor, Sophia didn't change her mind. She thought exposing Luna to nuts would help her allergies. I was tired of arguing with her and tired of being called a bad mom. Sophia even tried to get Luna to eat nuts, but Luna knew better and always said no. Feeling more and more worried about what Sophia might do, I decided to talk to William about it. I'm really concerned about leaving Luna alone with Sophia. I'm afraid she might give Luna foods she's allergic to, thinking it will help her allergies, I told him. Don't worry so much, Ava. My mom might have old-fashioned ideas, but she knows her boundaries. And Dad is always there to step in if things get out of hand. Luna loves being with her grandparents, and we can't just stop her from seeing them, William said, trying to reassure me. But Sophia keeps ignoring Luna's allergies. I'm genuinely scared for Luna's safety whenever she's with them without me. We need to talk about this. I can't keep worrying like this, I insisted. Relax, Ava. There's no need to stop Luna from seeing my parents just because of this small issue. Luna loves being with them, you know? And if you're worried about Mom, I'll talk to her. She'll listen to me, William assured me. His words made sense. Luna really enjoyed being with her grandparents, so I couldn't bring myself to stop her. If Luna had ever said she didn't want to see them, I would have respected her decision. But I didn't realize that even William couldn't change Sophia's behavior. Things came to a head at Luna's 11th birthday party. Benjamin and Sophia were invited, and they said they'd come. Sophia seemed really excited, which made me uneasy, though I didn't know why. When they arrived early, it surprised me because Sophia usually avoided being around me. She gave Luna a big present wrapped in birthday paper and said, "Happy birthday, Luna. Here's your gift. Grandma got you something really special." Luna thanked Sophia, and then Sophia said, "Wow, that's a big gift. What's inside, Grandpa?" "I have no idea, Luna. Grandma chose it, and she won't even tell me what's in there. We'll both find out when you open it," Benjamin said. "Come on, open Grandma's gift and see what she got you. I bet you'll love it, sweetie. I'll be your favorite grandma ever," Sophia said excitedly. "I can't wait to see what you got me, Grandma. I'm so excited." "We'll open all the gifts after we cut the cake, Luna. Let your friends arrive, and once we finish the cake, you can start opening the presents," I suggested. "No, Luna needs to open my gift before cutting the cake. That's why I came early to give her my special present," Sophia insisted. Despite feeling suspicious about Sophia's behavior, Luna seemed genuinely happy to get such a nice gift from her grandma. The big, heavy package made Luna even more excited, and she couldn't wait to see what was inside. She wanted to start opening her presents once all her friends were there. I agreed to let Luna open Sophia's gift before the cake, as Sophie said it had to be done that way. I didn't want to upset Luna on her birthday, so we went along with it. But little did I know what a disaster it would turn into. Luna and her parents were let down by the one person they trusted. Sophia not only ruined Luna's birthday, but also turned everyone against her. When Luna opened the gift, she found a big cake with her name on it. She was happy for a moment, but then she passed out. William and I rushed to her, scared and confused when we saw her throat swelling up. In shock, I watched as William hurried to get an epinephrine shot while someone else called the police. Knowing exactly who was behind this, I confronted Sophia, demanding answers. "What on earth did you put in Luna's cake? What's in it?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger and fear. Sophia pretended she didn't know anything, saying, "I didn't do anything, Ava. It's just a regular cake. I don't understand what's happening. Maybe something you did caused Luna to faint. You've been neglecting her nutrition despite my warnings, and now she's paying the price. Don't try to blame me. Luna was fine just a moment ago, and now she's having an allergic reaction. Tell me what you did to her, Sophia. I hope you didn't mess with the cake. You need to own up to your actions and take responsibility. Look at Luna, she's turning blue," I snapped back, ignoring Sophia's excuses. Focusing solely on Luna, I hurried over with the epinephrine I always kept on hand for emergencies. Although Luna's swelling went down a bit, she remained unconscious. It was clear that she needed to go to the hospital to fully recover. The room was filled with worry for Luna. Tears welled up in my eyes, and even William looked close to crying. Sophia, who was already in tears, seemed scared. In that moment, I decided to cut open the cake to see what was inside. What I found shocked me to the core. I demanded answers from Sophia, questioning her sanity for putting nuts in the cake. Sophia, what were you thinking? You ignored my warnings and put nuts in the cake, putting Luna's health at risk. How could you be so careless? I only wanted to help Luna, not hurt her. I didn't like that Ava was so strict about Luna's diet. While it's true Luna might have reactions sometimes, I thought gradually giving her nuts could help, Sophia argued. My frustration boiled over when I confronted Ava, saying, "Are you crazy? Our daughter is allergic to nuts. She could have died from this reaction. Who gave you the right to decide how to handle her allergies? Look at the mess you've made. I'm Luna's grandma, and I have the right to take care of her. She'll be fine. You're all overreacting. You're just trying to scare me for no reason. I'm sure this is all part of Camilla's plan to make me look bad. But listen, Sophia, if things go my way today, you'll be in big trouble. Right now, all I care about is Luna's health," I said firmly. Just then, the ambulance arrived with paramedics. They took care of Luna and took her to the hospital, with us following closely. The doctors told us Luna would need time to wake up and would have to stay at the hospital for a day or two. We were all overwhelmed with emotion. I broke down in the hospital, finding comfort in William's arms. After calming down, I called Benjamin to let everyone know that Luna was no longer in danger. When I hung up, I turned to William and expressed my anger, saying, "I'll never forgive Sophia for what she did today. She could have put our daughter's life at risk." I've been thinking about how serious this is. It's unbelievable. Something I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't seen it myself. My mom has become someone I don't even recognize anymore. She did all of this just to make me look like a bad mom. She acted like she cared about Luna's happiness, but she never thought about how dangerous it was for Luna. Even after everything, she still says I planned it all. Today showed me how far my mom will go to make you look bad. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner and didn't do more to keep her away from us. I need to protect Luna from my mom's bad influence. I failed as a husband and as a father. William was starting to realize how serious the situation was, and Benjamin, who had always been a good grandfather, was clearly affected by Sophia's actions. This time she went too far. Even though she'd gotten away with things before, we weren't going to let her off easy this time. We decided then and there that we couldn't let Sophia keep hurting Luna. Her actions were a threat to Luna's safety, and we couldn't allow her to keep causing trouble in our lives. Sophia was no longer welcome in our family. We were determined to protect Luna and make sure she grew up in a safe and loving environment. It wouldn't be easy, but for Luna's sake, it was a decision we were ready to stand by. Following a heartfelt discussion, my husband and I quickly made a decision while Luna was still in the hospital. It was time to head back home. Benjamin, Sophia, and a few other guests stayed behind, eager for updates on Luna's condition. This gave us the perfect opportunity to address Sophia's actions. When we got home, 4 hours had passed since the incident. In the living room, we found Benjamin scolding Sophia while she seemed indifferent, busy on her phone. The untouched birthday cake sat sadly beside them, a painful reminder of what had happened. Despite my sadness, I held back my emotions. When they noticed us, Benjamin and Sophia hurried over. "I just got an update," I said. "Luna is in good hands and she'll recover soon, although she's still unconscious. The doctors are hopeful. Thank goodness, Luna will be okay. I was so worried, but it looks like everything's fine. It wasn't even a big deal. Luna will be fine, and her nut allergy will go away soon," Sophia declared. In that moment, William unleashed his anger on Sophia, scolding her for everything she had done. Benjamin joined in, expressing his disappointment, and the guests, visibly shocked, stared at Sophia with disapproval. I, too, was filled with rage. "I've had it with you, Sophia," I declared. "We've given you so many chances to change. Even after your actions put my daughter in the hospital, you show no remorse. This is it. You will never be allowed near Luna or our family again. You're banned from this house. You can't tell me where to go. Your son won't cut me off for no reason. I won't let you keep me from my granddaughter just because we don't agree on how to raise her," Sophia shot back. "No, Mom," William replied firmly. "You're not welcome near me or my family ever again. Dad can come here anytime, but not you. He's the only sensible grandparent Luna has. He's done his best to keep Luna safe. But today you put Luna in the hospital and acted like it was the right thing to do. I can't let someone so heartless be around my daughter." Sophia couldn't believe her own son was turning against her. She had always trusted William to support her, not realizing he was being rational, unlike her. Even the guests started criticizing her. Sophia felt trapped, with no one on her side, not even Benjamin. In desperation, she screamed at us, blaming me for setting her up. "This is all your fault, Ava. You turned everyone against me. I'll never forgive you for this. You should be begging for our forgiveness. Your actions have ruined your reputation and kept you from Luna. I'll sue you for grandparents' rights. I'll take you to court, and the judge will let me see Luna. Just wait and see. I don't need anyone to support me." I responded firmly, "You're not going to have much luck getting grandparents' rights from jail. I'm sure the judge would find it pretty funny to have a criminal asking for visitation after putting her own granddaughter in danger." Sophia protested. "What are you talking about, Ava? Why would I go to jail? I didn't do anything wrong." "Didn't do anything?" I shot back. "What you did is a crime, Sophia. You can be arrested for knowingly exposing a child to allergens. It's considered a form of poisoning. Maybe you didn't realize it, but William and I did. We've already called the police on you. And look, here they come now to arrest you." Sophia, in denial, insisted, "No, you're lying. This can't be happening. You can't arrest me for this." Sophia's panicked expression showed her desperation as she begged us to drop the charges. Tears flowed down her face, and she started to panic. Just then, 2 officers came in and told her she was under arrest. She clung to our hands, begging us not to send her to jail. William remained unmoved, telling the cops to take her away, while I gave Sophia a cold look, showing that her deceitful game was over. In a last attempt, she turned to Benjamin for help, begging him to do something. "Benjamin, please. You can't let your wife get arrested like this," she pleaded. But Benjamin stood firm, saying, "When my wife does something truly terrible and shows no remorse, I won't protect her. I've warned you for years to change, and you never listened. Today, you put our granddaughter in danger. I was only trying to protect her, not realizing it would hurt her so badly. Please, Benjamin, I'm your wife. You have to help me," Sophia pleaded desperately. But William stood by his decision, saying firmly, "Sophia, I've already cut you out of my life. It's the right thing to do. And I plan to do the same. Tomorrow, I'll talk to a divorce lawyer. I want to end this as soon as possible. I won't stay with someone like you. I'll protect my granddaughter and my kids from you." Sophia was shocked and pleaded desperately, No, Benjamin. You can't do this to me. I'm your wife." Ignoring her, Benjamin told the cops to take her away. Sophia continued crying and begging for help, bringing a tumultuous end to an event that had long concluded. A sense of peace washed over me as William, Benjamin, and I went back to the hospital. After the other guests left, clearly upset by Sophia's actions, they promised to tell everyone what she had done. The next day, Luna woke up feeling much better, but she was terrified of Sophia. Luna cried and begged us to keep her away from her grandmother, saying how Sophia had tried to make her eat things she was allergic to. To help Luna deal with her feelings, we got her a therapist. At the same time, William and I started going to therapy together to work on our communication as a family. Having Benjamin's support was really important for all of us. With his help, we started to heal and grow stronger as a family. Sophia's life took a sharp turn for the worse after the incident. Her actions caught up with her, and she faced serious consequences. Once her own family found out what she had done, they scolded her and cut ties with her. Even her friends were disgusted by her behavior and stopped talking to her. With no one to turn to, Sophia found herself in a desperate situation, begging everyone for bail money. But she didn't get any help, and Benjamin filed for divorce the next day. Sophia was served with divorce papers while still in jail. Receiving the divorce papers in herself sent Sophia into a fit of rage. In the following months, Benjamin was able to get a quick divorce, taking advantage of state laws. With the police report as evidence, our legal case against Sophia moved forward. Despite the expectation for Sophia to cover Luna's medical expenses, her financial struggles resulted in a lengthy prison sentence as the judge ruled against her. Moreover, we obtained restraining orders to ensure she stays away from our family. With confidence that Sophia won't have the chance to approach us again, we remain watchful. But if by some chance she tries to cross the line, she'll encounter the fierce protection of Mama and Papa Bear, who are determined to do whatever it takes to keep Luna safe.